A swaddled infant smiles peacefully while a voice asks if the child is human. A wizard, a goddess, and a swordsman stand over the baby in a clearing. Noticing the baby's tiny hands, the swordsman vows to wield a sword one day. The goddess, moved by the sweet child, vows to make him the world's greatest healer. The wizard announces that the child will be his successor and the greatest wizard ever. A divine voice names the child Will, the name that will shape his future. Years later, a young Will dashes frantically through a dark forest with a large wolf. Behind them, the ground cracks and splinters as Will senses the pursuer closing in. Alarmed, Will calls out the name of his wolf companion, Schultz. A huge green ogre smashes through the trees, its heavy steps shaking the earth. Schultz growls, making it clear he knows the monstrous creature is right behind them. A deafening, furious roar bursts from the ogre, its maw wide with rage. Perched atop, Schultz will calmly order his companion to create a distraction. Will draws his sword from its scabbard with a swift, decisive motion. Leaping off the wolf's back, he spins gracefully onto a thick tree root. Crouched on the root, Will taps his foot, poised to spring into action. Schultz bolts past the ogre, drawing its attention while the beast swings its club. Will says with fierce resolve that he won't let the ogre harm the forest. Leaping from his perch, he soars toward the distracted ogre. His blade plunges deep into the ogre's shoulder, drawing blood as the ogre bellows. Wounded, the ogre stumbles backward, roaring in pain and reeling from the sudden attack. Will drives his blade into the creature's back with another powerful stab. Cursing the damned ogre, Will dodges a clumsy swing and prepares another attack. Shouting a furious battle cry, he strikes back at the monstrous foe. His blade delivers a clean slash across the ogre's back, spraying blood. The massive creature falls with a heavy thud, defeated, while Will and Schultz stand ready. Will sits in a peaceful clearing, surrounded by a group of adoring forest creatures. A small, spiky creature seems injured, its eyes clenched shut in pain. Nearby, Rabbit watches with a hopeful, slightly worried expression. Will lays his hands on the creature and casts a glowing healing spell. Reassuring the creature, he says it's all better now as a rabbit hops happily nearby. A small, fluffy animal nuzzles his cheek, and he warmly accepts its thanks. The grateful creature tugs playfully at Will's collar to get his attention. Will looks up and asks his companion Schultz what is wrong. A simplified Chibai-style character looks on with a blank, confused expression. Schultz reminds him that it's Woden's day and time for his sword training. The sudden reminder startles the nearby animals. Realizing he's late, Will says he has to hurry and runs off. Forest creatures wave their paws, cheering him on and wishing him luck. Leaping with practiced agility, he crosses the rocky forest terrain. Seeing his haste, Schultz stops him and prepares to offer a ride. The great wolf tells Will to hop on his back to travel faster. Will leaps gracefully onto Schultz's back, ready to ride. Smiling with gratitude, he thanks his loyal wolf companion. Racing through the forest, they will reflect on being an abandoned child. He wonders whether he was left behind by war or by a great famine. In one memory, he is a crying newborn drifting down a river in a small boat. On the riverbank, a mysterious hooded traveler hears a baby crying. The traveler finds the infant, but a different presence steps in. Cradled gently, the baby looks up with wide, innocent eyes. A majestic eagle swoops down and gently plucks the swaddled baby from the boat. The great bird lifts the infant high over the mountains. They brought him to the people who would become his family and teachers. Ronan is the god of the sword, Myria the goddess of healing, and Vandal the god of magic. The person who found him belonged to Leo, the omnipotent god of 1,000 theophanies. Table Mountain is their home, the majestic dwelling of the gods. Nestled on the mountainside is a large, welcoming house. Will and Schultz arrive at the home of their divine family. Ronan greets him casually and asks if he's finally back. Will smiles, tears of joy in his eyes, knowing he was raised by gods. Ronan scolds Will for being late and wandering around. Vandal gently scolds Ronan, reminding him that they already knew about the green ogre. Myria holds Will tight while Ronan boasts about his successful training. Ronan announces it's time for today's sword training. Mary objects, saying Will was in serious danger only moments ago. She proposes they focus on healing, but Ronan insists it's his turn. Vandal cuts in and asks if Will would rather study history with him. Three guardians glare at one another, crackling with rivalry. Ronan leans in and speaks to Will, drawing his attention. Will's worn scabbard is crumbling slightly, a clear sign he needs new gear. Ronan slyly offers Will the new dagger Will has wanted as a reward for his training. Excitement lights Will's eyes, and he readily agrees to sword training. Ronan beams and pats Will's head, while the others grit their teeth in frustration. The massive tree trunk stands firm, ready for the training exercise. Ronan explains the day's trial while cutting the trunk with his sword. Ronan smirks confidently and says he will demonstrate first. Stepping forward, he moves into a focused, ready stance. Planting his feet firmly, he prepares to draw his blade. His hand rests on the katana's hilt, ready to unleash his power. A powerful aura swirls around him as he draws his sword, his face deadly serious. A blinding flash of motion, he delivers a single powerful slash. A clean slice splits the tree trunk in two, leaving Will stunned and amazed. Ronan tells Will he's up next while the others watch from a table. Will swings with all his strength, and Ronan easily dismisses the weak attempt. The boy's sword only makes a faint scratch on the massive tree stump. Ronan watches thoughtfully, unsure if the boy is ready to learn this. Will's face tightens with intense focus and determination. Remembering his father's technique, he focuses his mind on the blade's tip. Will unleashes a massive surge of power that obliterates the stump. His power spent, he stands in the swirling dust and smoke. Will turns to Ronan and eagerly asks his mentor for an assessment. Stunned yet impressed, Ronan agrees to give Will the promised dagger. Will receives the magnificent new dagger, his eyes bright with joy. At once he rushes to show Schultz, his wolf, the new treasure. Ronan crouches, watching Will run off with a satisfied expression. He tells the others he instructed Will to slice the stump. He lifts a splinter of wood from the destroyed stump. He says the kid smashed it to smithereens instead. Will shows off his new dagger to Schultz, asking whether he looks cool. In a close-up, someone fidgets, fingers touching their lips. Startled, the goddess Myria looks up and wonders whether the approaching figure is a vandal. The bearded wizard Vandal smiles warmly and tells Willie he has a reward. Declaring it's time to study magic, he offers the Book of the Flame Dragon. Will casually says he has already memorized the book, shocking his mentor. He explains that because Vandal always speaks the ancient language, Vandal can use its spells. Vandal reacts in disbelief as Will prepares to show his power. Will chants an incantation and gathers a bright sphere of magical energy between his hands. With a roar, he unleashes a massive blast that throws them both backward. Proudly he asks if Vandal saw it, and Vandal can only confirm the name of the powerful spell. A small, striped, squirrel-like creature scurries across the grass. It scrambles up Myria's body, chattering frantically as the others watch, confused. Flustered, the goddess asks her darling what is wrong as it sits on her shoulder. Hearing it, she realizes Will did something amazing and shares the news. Myria says the creature claimed Will was merely healing another injured animal. Overwhelmed, she hugs Will tightly, squishing him in an affectionate embrace. Ronan warns she will suffocate the boy by squeezing him tightly. Breathless, Will asks his dad Ronan if he can go show off his new dagger. Ronan casually agrees and tells the boy to run along now. Will dashes off, happily waving goodbye as he disappears into the woods. Far away, a lone bird soars high above the smiling boy. Leo, the massive eagle, lands with a powerful flap of his wings. Close by, a majestic stag's hooves step lightly onto the grass. The stag says Will seems to be growing up just as they had hoped. Now human, Ronan disagrees with a proud, gentle smile. Myria watches as he explains that Will is more than they could have hoped for. Vandal agrees, his face soft with deep parental affection. Three guardians pause to reflect on how much their little baby has already grown. Their thoughts return to the past as they consider raising a human child. Ronan arrives and at first mistakes the swaddled infant for a snack meant for him. Myria's hand slips as she complains that men are all the same. She holds up the infant and asks if he is the most adorable baby. She gives the baby a happy squeeze and affectionately calls the baby a little marshmallow. Ronan turns to Vandal and asks him to speak to her. Reading a book, Vandal says he dislikes noisy, selfish children. Myri is immediately angered by his words and challenges his harsh assessment. Her gesture reveals timid forest creatures gathered, drawn to the child's presence. Looking at him with love, she says he is the kindest and will become a powerful healer. Ronan watches, doubting her bold claim about the baby's future. The baby lets out a soft gurgle and waves his tiny hands. Ronan leans in and comments on the baby's incredibly tiny hands. Offering a finger, he feels the baby's tiny hand close around it with surprising strength. Ronan, stunned, shouts that the baby already knows how to hold a sword. Gripping his katana, he makes a firm decision. He declares with a flourish that when Will grows up, he will wield a sword. Claiming the title god of the sword, he chooses his future pupil. Myria objects, reminding him she just said Will is a future healer. They argue fiercely, pressing Vandal to decide which path is more suitable. The baby's eyes light up as he watches the bickering adults. Will stares intently at Vandal, scrunching his face to mimic a stern expression. Breaking into a charming smile, he pulls a goofy face at the wizard. Vandal chuckles and admits the child has a good sense of humor. He says the child is bright and promises to teach him magic. A powerful voice booms from above, ordering everyone to stop bickering. Leo, the great eagle, warns he will carry the child away if they keep arguing. He asked them to explain why they insisted on the paths they chose for the child. Ronan believes strength and swordsmanship shape a man's future. Myriad believes a kind heart and the ability to comfort others matter most. Vandal argues that knowing everything will make the boy happy. Laos weighs its sincere but conflicting desires for the child's well-being. He suggests a simple solution. They should alternate teaching the child. All three guardians are struck by the idea's simple brilliance. They exchange a look of mutual understanding and agreement. They choose to give the child the best possible education in all three disciplines. A guardian draws their sword with a sharp, decisive sound. The scene shifts to another guardian as she thinks back to a particular day. A hooded figure is visible, their hand covering their face in thought. All three guardians laugh with competitive glee, each picturing their own victory. Perched on a branch, Leo inspects them skeptically, unsure it will work. Now Ronan faces Leo's with a weary but resolute expression. He tells the eagle god they have decided how to raise the boy. Laos leans in to listen, his keen eye fixed on Ronan. Ronan remembers the day he found the child beside a boat, a moment of revelation. He knows that one day the boy will have to set out on his own. For now, he wants Will to grow up free, as his heart desires. In a field, a large wolf calls to a young boy named Will. The wolf Schultz asks whether he is interested in the world beyond Table Mountain. Will looks up and smiles slightly, showing his interest. Despite Father Leo's warnings, he believes he is meant to descend. He resolves to master swordplay, magic, and healing to be ready. For a moment he is stumped, unsure how one person could master all three. Considering various combinations, he looks for the ideal career. Schultz gives his thoughtful companion a simple, powerful suggestion. Will explains he can't be a hero because he remembers Vandal's lesson about a special mark. A flashback shows a younger Will frantically checking his body for the mark. Schultz swishes his tail, as if asking why a detail like that matters. The wolf says that, by his father's definition, hero is the perfect title for Will. Will looks up in disbelief and whispers the question to himself. Schultz says Will is already the hero of their home, Table Mountain. The boy takes it in as the idea slowly takes root in his heart. This realization grows into a powerful, unshakable confidence in himself. At home, his guardians hear his declaration and smile with pride. Motivated Myriad decides to cook, prompting a comical argument with Ronan. After 7 years, a voice calls out Will's name. An older Will answers his mother's call through a messenger bird. Inside the house, Myria wonders where her son has gone this time. Wide shot reveals a vast, peaceful landscape with a lone tree. Close up on a hand gripping a dagger with intense concentration. A bird flies toward Will, who is perched on a tree branch. Will darts through the forest canopy in a blur of speed. A young man vaults through the forest and lands softly on the grass. Standing tall with quiet strength, he carries a sword at his hip. At 14, Will looks mature and ready to begin his journey. Far away in a grand hall, a massive stone statue of a goddess sits at the top of a staircase. At the foot of the stairs, Lady Luna Maria kneels, blindfolded in prayer. She gasps, clasps her hands, and a divine message fills her mind. Gaia's calm face glows, marking the start of a new chapter. An attendant calls to Lady Luna Maria and asks where she is going. Luna Maria stands up, her expression steady and determined. She says she has received a prophecy from the mother goddess Gaia. Sent on a divine mission, she must go to Table Mountain where the hero lives. High on the mountain, Will leaps through the air and skillfully slices apples from a tree. He skillfully catches the falling fruit in a cloth with a soft flap. After landing beside his wolf companion Schultz, he has gathered a bountiful harvest. Will takes a big, satisfyingly crunchy bite from one of the fresh apples. Relaxing on a rock, he smiles and says the fruit is delicious. He offers an apple to Schultz, who accepts one too. The wolf chews the fruit contentedly, while Will asks whether it tastes good. A gentle breeze rustles the sun-dappled trees around them. Will and Schultz sit quietly, enjoying the pleasant breeze. Schultz notes how quickly humans grow and says Will is now a strong young man. Will turns when he hears his name, looking puzzled by his friend's somber tone. The wolf, sure of the answer, asks if Will plans to leave the mountain soon. A gentle smile will confirm that he is indeed leaving. He remembers his father Laos telling him to become the savior of the world. Schultz says the world truly needs men like Will. Will clenches his fist and apologizes that he can no longer protect the forest creatures. Schultz gives him an affectionate nudge and playfully calls him a cheeky youngling for worrying. The wolf reassures him the beast, as strong as a mountain, can ask the gods for help. Schultz wistfully wishes he could go with Will, but Will explains he cannot. Playfully suggests that Schultz should marry a female wolf named Weiss instead. Flustered, Schultz insists he wants nothing to do with the tomboy while Will smirks. Will sits beside his friend as the mood grows more serious and heartfelt. A quiet moment passes between them, revealing their strong, clear bond. We will thank Schultz with a gentle expression for everything so far. His hand buries into the wolf's thick, soft fur with affection. Schultz reassures him this is not a final goodbye and that this will always be his home. Will nods and they share one last tight farewell embrace. Will holds up the pouch of apples and says he wants to bring them to his family. Schultz's keen nose twitches as he sniffs the air for a new scent. The wolf urgently warns Will that someone is approaching the mountain. Will becomes alarmed, remembering that Table Mountain is a sacred realm forbidden to humans. Closing his eyes, he focuses his senses to detect the new presence. Concentric rings show his heightened hearing as he listens closely. Labored breathing and the clank of metal armor reach him. He deduces that a woman is being chased by armored men. Will whistles and a small bird lands on his hand. The bird lifts off, ready to carry a message for him. He asks the bird to tell his mother and fathers about the situation. Will resolves to rescue the woman, trusting the gentle beat of her heart. Leaping forward, his feet blur as he rushes toward the commotion. He argues that in stories men who gang up on a woman are always the villains. Blindfolded, a woman runs desperately through the forest as her pursuers shout for her to stop. A thrown dagger clanks into a tree, forcing her to stop escaping. One armored man draws his sword with a sharp sound. Another attacker hurls a curved blade to cut her down. The leader says the game of tag is over. They are here to take her life. Standing defiantly, she says her life belongs to the goddess, not to barbarians. A hooded assailant sneers and demands to know who put her up to this defiance. Snaring, he says there is no reason to answer her and lifts his sword to strike. As his blade falls, he tells her to ask her goddess in the afterlife. Fury widens the attacker's eyes as he brings his sword down. Luna Maria whirls gracefully and slips past the clumsy, powerful strike. Dodging the blow, she keeps a focused expression and moves fluidly. The attacker stumbles and falls, enraging the leader who shouts at her. Roger orders his men to surround her and attack at once. A soldier raises his sword and shouts for her to die. She braces for the coordinated assault. A sudden volley of projectiles slams into the soldiers with a loud boom. Will and Schultz step out of the smoke and stand protectively beside the woman. Will turns to the woman, his face softening as he asks if she is all right. Turning to his voice, she shows quiet surprise at being rescued. Defeated soldiers lie on the ground, staring in disbelief. A mercenary clicks his tongue, annoyed by the interference. The men mutter in disbelief as they take in the giant wolf and the child. Will wonders aloud what these people are doing so far from any village. Soldiers plan to take down the odd duo and the priestess. Due sighs and resignation, think they are just like the villains from the stories. The priest objects, saying there is no need to show mercy to such evil. Will turns to her and asks whether she minds him helping. Smiling serenely, she calls him a great hero and tells him to go on. The title stops Will in his tracks, his mind questioning her words and the blindfold. Stepping forward, he tells the men they are trespassing on the sacred Table Mountain. A weary sigh escapes him as he braces for what comes next. The leader bellows the order to kill them all as his men charge forward. Will gives a resigned sigh and braces for the inevitable fight. Calling to Schultz, he gets a growl back as Schultz readies for battle. Will weaves through the armored soldiers, moving in a blur. At first he thinks of breaking their armor by force, but he decides against it. Countering a massive punch, he delivers a strong open palm strike to the chest. A shockwave ripples through the soldier's armor from the impact. The soldiers cursed the little brat for leaping around so nimbly. Will is sure to slash at one of the soldiers as he passes. Confused, the men look around and say he has vanished. They search frantically for him, trying to figure out where he went. Will reappears overhead and lands a powerful kick to a soldier's head. He lands gracefully as the soldier falls to the ground, defeated. Schultz puts away another opponent with a decisive stomp. The Great Wolf reports he has finished everything on his end. Will turns to the priestess with a gentle, concerned smile. A young man turns toward a hooded woman and asks if she is hurt. Blindfolded, the priestess reassures him, praising his remarkable deeds and calling him a hero. Flustered, Will realizes this is the first human woman he's ever seen. Stammering, he questions her choice of the word hero as she asks for his forgiveness. Bowing gracefully, she apologizes for trespassing and for leading thugs to the sacred mountain. Luna Maria introduces herself as the blind priestess of the mother goddess Gaia. Will remembers his mentor Vandal's lessons about Gaia and her pure-hearted priestesses. Her praise of his knowledge makes him blush as she calls him a great hero again. Revealing her true purpose to meet the hero raised by God's leaves, Will stunned. His voice tight with doubt, he says he lacks a hero's mark as his wolf companion yawns. Luna Maria reflects on his words about the lack of a special mark. He confirms, however, that he is the only human on the mountain raised by gods. Smiling with certainty, she says there is no doubt he is the one. She tells Gaia's prophecy about a savior who will bring harmony to the world. Luna Maria looks at the defeated mercenaries lying on the forest floor. Groaning armored men lie scattered across the ground, their weapons discarded. She says these men are heretics who are trying to stop her from meeting the great hero. Suddenly Schultz, his wolf, sniffs the air and detects a new hidden presence nearby. Schultz gives a low growl, warning Will to be on guard for others. As Will introduces his friend, Luna Maria is surprised that he can communicate with animals. He warns her urgently to stay alert, sensing more villains rustling in the woods. Rustling in the bushes confirms their suspicion that more enemies are coming. A new mercenary leader arrives and berates his subordinate for failing to kill the priestess. The defeated soldier says Will and his wolf disrupted their plan. The new leader scoffs on hearing that. He vows to focus on killing them, his sword crackling with magical energy. Luna Maria urgently warns Will that their new foe is armed with an enchanted weapon. Alarmed, Will repeats her warning about the enchanted sword. He's briefly taken aback by this new, more dangerous threat. Leaping protectively in front of Luna Maria, he refuses to be shielded from such scum. He insists even enchanted weapons are no problem for him. Luna Maria issues a cryptic warning that the area will soon be bathed in crimson. She makes clear that the coming destruction will not be caused by her. The earth shudders violently, jolting the confused mercenaries. A colossal creature bursts from the earth in a thunderous crash. The mercenaries look around, confused, as they try to find the source of the upheaval. Their leader stammers in shock and asks what the creature is doing here. Will and Luna Maria stare in disbelief as the red dragon is revealed. The massive beast lets out a terrifying roar that sends the mercenaries into a panic. Luna Maria notes the dragon's staggering size. Will ask how she senses its size despite being blind. She feels its powerful heartbeat and hears its furious roar. The dragon locks its fiery gaze on the terrified soldiers. Far away, an unseen divine guardian watches the chaos unfold. The guardian concludes the mercenaries accidentally disturbed a dragon's nest. Panicking, the mercenary leader realizes he still has to complete his mission. Clicking his tongue in frustration, he decides to deal with the monster. Ordering his archers, he tells them to fire arrows to drive the beast away. A volley of arrows flies toward the massive dragon. Projectiles bounce off the dragon's nearly impenetrable hide without causing harm. The leader lunges in a final, desperate attack with his enchanted sword. A brilliant flash of light erupts as his magical blade strikes the dragon. The powerful attack does not even leave a scratch, and the leader is left in disbelief. Cursing the lizard, his face twisted with frustration and fear. Seeing the fight is hopeless, he yells for his men to run for their lives. The dragon's throat starts to glow as it prepares a devastating fire attack. Will appears suddenly and tells Luna Maria to stay where she is. A massive torrent of fire pours from the dragon's open maw. Desperate, the two fleeing soldiers scrambled to escape the approaching inferno. Roaring flames engulfed the clearing where they had just stood. The mercenary leader is knocked back by the blast's enormous force. Frozen, he stares at the dragon's overwhelming power. His face is frozen in horror and complete disbelief. Standing over the fallen soldiers, Will scolds them for their recklessness. Luna Maria drifts calmly in the background, watching the scene. She says their parents would grieve their needless deaths. Will the darts fly past the stunned men at incredible speed. Planting his feet firmly, he faces the dragon with two heads. Alone and determined, he faces the titanic beast. Defeated soldiers regroup, and one asks his leader if he is all right. The leader scoffs, doubting a kid could do anything against a dragon. Luna Maria leaps to Will's side, calling him a great hero as he comforts her. He tells her confidently not to worry because he has a few tricks up his sleeve. A single dragon eye locks onto its new, smaller opponent. 3 shadowy wraiths materialize on either side of the roaring dragon. Fear grips the mercenaries at the terrifying sight. Their leader looks pale, and his former confidence is completely gone. Luna Maria gasps as the wraith's immense evil washes over her. In the chaos, Will calmly draws his ornate silver dagger. He remembers the powerful lessons from his 2 fathers, Ronin and Vandal. The dragon puffs, feeling a shift in the young man's power. Will knows he can combine their powers with his silver dagger. He starts chanting, calling on the frost to transform the wind. Icy energy swirls around his dagger as he raises it high. He leaps forward and unleashes a spell that freezes everything in his path. Responding, the dragon opens its mouth and unleashes a torrent of fire. A wave of absolute zero hits the roaring flames. Flames start to solidify into frozen orange-red sculptures. An icy wave of energy crashes over the massive beast. The dragon freezes for a split second in utter disbelief. The mercenary leader yells in shock as the dragon's flames turn to solid ice. A colossal statue of jagged ice quickly encases the entire 2-headed dragon. Ice cracks and groans as it hardens around the beast's form. The dragon's form shatters into a spray of frozen shards. Stunned, the mercenaries stare, unable to believe the dragon turned to ice instantly. Will stands in falling snow while the leader asks what kind of kid he is. Branding him a monster, the leader orders a full and immediate retreat. Luna Maria steps gracefully into the now silent clearing. Approaching Will, she calls him the great hero again. Showing deep respect, she reaches up and lifts her blindfold. A beautiful priestess lifts her blindfold as sparkling light showers around her. Luna Maria opens her clear violet eyes and formally reintroduces herself as the blind priestess. Turning to the young man, she asks his name and calls him Great Hero. Luna Maria smiles softly, curious as she waits for his answer. Will looks at her with a calm, thoughtful expression. He simply says his name is Will. Starting to explain his origins, he says he is human. Luna Maria gently questions the title hero, but she still seems firmly convinced. Her faith comes from a prophecy, and Will doubts himself because he has no hero's mark. Switching topics, Luna Maria continues explaining. Because she is blind, she notes she cannot confirm if he has the mark anyway. Her comment leaves Will blushing, flustered, and confused. Acknowledging his confusion, she admits that words of sympathy might sound rude because of her clear eyes. She agrees with him and reveals she willingly gave up her sight to her god. With a peaceful smile, she says she has no regrets about becoming a priestess. Will listens closely and takes in the depth of her devotion. She demonstrates her heightened senses, asks if he just crossed his hands, and he confirms, surprised. Losing her sight has sharpened her other senses, she explains, letting her feel the airflow. Will is awestruck by her remarkable perceptiveness. Blushing, Luna Maria admits she saw how brilliantly he fought earlier. Perched on a log, she speaks to him with a new seriousness. Addressing him as Lord Will, she captures his full attention. She reassures him she trained from a young age and will not be a burden. Looking into Ernest's eyes, she asks him to join her on a journey to save the world. Her proposal surprises Will as he considers a journey. He admits he plans to travel, and she happily declares it must be destiny. His wolf companion teases that his overprotective gods won't easily give their permission. Will assumes his father Leos will agree because the journey was his idea. Distress crosses his face as he looks up, worried about his other mother and fathers. He imagines the 3 overprotective gods adamantly refusing to let him go. Luna Maria stands and urges them to rely on the one God who will bless them. She asks Lord Will to introduce her to his divine family. Her eyes sparkling, she vows to get permission so they can travel together. Will agrees to lead, and they head out at once. While they walk, Luna Maria starts tying her blindfold back on. She looks up a bit surprised and asks if something is wrong. Will watches, puzzled by what she does. He notes she's putting the blindfold back on. He tells Luna Maria her eyes are beautiful and covering them would be a waste. Accepting his wish, she closes her eyes and offers a gentle, blushing smile. Will's heart pounds because the smile of a girl his own age overwhelms him. His wolf and Luna Maria notice his flushed face, and he stammers that it is nothing. Composing himself, he gently takes her hand. Smiling with determination, he asks her to come along. They clasp hands, ready to set off together. Hand in hand, they walk toward the gods' dwelling. A small bird tells the gods that Will is bringing a human girl home. Goddess Maria clenches her fist, furious at the girl's audacity. Run and watch with an impassive face as the bird flutters away in panic. Myriad, with a sinister laugh, says she will test the girl's worthiness. They arrive at a magnificent temple that will be known as God's dwelling. He says they built it to preserve their dignity as gods. Inside the vast hall, they stand before a long, empty table. Stern swordsman Ronan enters with dramatic flair. Beside him stands the wise wizard Vandal, matching his gravitas. Myria, the furious goddess, bursts in with an overwhelming presence. The intimidating arrival clearly startles Will and Luna Maria. Luna Maria senses the strong divine energy in them and recognizes them as Will's guardians. Will apologizes quietly for his parents' loud behavior. Ronan says she is a priestess of the mother goddess Gaia. Will tries to explain she's devoted to her goddess. He keeps defending her sincere intentions to Father Ronan. Ronan slams the table, demanding to know why she is using feminine wiles on Will. Calmly, Luna Maria says her mission is to dedicate herself to Lord Will's well-being. Her vow of devotion shocks Myrius. Myria angrily refuses to give Will to a brazen young woman. Deep frustration and anger show as she pouts. Annoyed, Luna Maria watches the goddess's outburst. Ronan whispers to Vandal that a rift is already forming between the mother and her daughter-in-law. Vandal teases that Will likely wants to kiss her, surprising everyone. Flustered, Will thinks about kissing Luna Maria. He turns to a surprised Luna Maria and asks her the question. Blushing, she agrees if that is what Lord Will wishes. Thinking about kissing Luna Maria throws Will into a flustered panic. They line in, faces inches apart, ready to kiss. Ronan and Vandal tease Myria, claiming Will prefers a young maiden to an old hag. Furious, Myriad turns on them and demands to know whose side they are on. A calm, authoritative voice orders everyone to stop. Ronan and Vandal fall quiet at the interruption. High above them, a large blackbird with glowing eyes perches. Spreading its grand wings, the bird shows its divine power. Luna Maria stands breathless before the vast divine presence. Will explains that this is his father, Leos, the omnipotent god who might help them. Lao speaks directly to Luna Maria and calls her the priestess of Gaia. He asks if she really plans to travel with Will. Startled, Luna Maria firmly confirms her intention. Her purpose is to help Lord Will as he learns about the world. Will steps forward to present his case directly to Father Leos. Earnestly, he explains that Luna Maria is the first human friend he's ever made. Luna Maria is clearly moved by his heartfelt declaration. Leo listens, his sharp, glowing eye fixed on his son. Interrupting, Myria says she discussed the journey but did not approve it. Her fist slams down as she shouts for them to wait. Ronan supports her, saying neither he nor the god of magic has approved yet. He admits he hates that saying about sending a child you love out into the world. Vandal explains they protect Will from evil and temptation because of parental love. Luna Maria steps forward and says she will protect him in that case. Ronan gives her a challenging smirk as if he doubts she will. Stepping forward with a decisive motion, he prepares to issue his challenge. The three gods decree that if both pass their trials, they may travel together. Myria, a beautiful woman, stands with Vandal, a wizard who is intrigued by the idea of a trial. Myria's face contorts with possessive rage as she vows never to let Luna Maria touch her precious Will. Will turns to Luna Maria, his face set with pure resolve, and she quietly agrees to face the challenge with him. Together, they declare their determination to prove themselves by clearing every trial. Ronan, the swordsman, smirks and orders the old wizard Vandal to start tormenting the youngsters. Vandal casts a sly, knowing glance from under the wide brim of his hat. With a cheeky smile, the wizard asks the feisty youngster Ronan to show a little more respect for his elders. Ornate empty goblets stand ready along a long table. Vandal snaps his fingers and conjures two glowing, ornate cups into the air. A solid, flowing arc of water magically forms between the two goblets, defying gravity. Will and Luna Maria stare in stunned confusion at the strange, impossible magical construct before them. Vandal points at the window, showing a cedar tree on a distant mountain summit as their destination. The wizard confirms their task is to carry the cups of water to that very tree. He lays out the conditions. They must not spill a single drop, and they have exactly 2 hours. Will's expression tightens as he takes in the strict 2-hour time limit for the daunting task. Mary finds the trial too easy and thinks her Will could accomplish it in just 1 hour. Luna Maria says she trains the same way and that they can clear this challenge. Will nods with a confident smile, his eyes bright with determination to get started. Vandal studies the young man and asks if he's ready to start the trial. 3 gods announce they will wait for the pair at the finish line, and the trial begins. Sunlight filters through the forest canopy, signaling the start of their journey. In a small clearing, Will stretches deeply to warm up as Luna Maria waits patiently. Turning to his companion, he asks if she is ready, and she tells Lord Will that she is. Will dashes forward at incredible speed, shouting and leaving a shocked Luna Maria behind. Luna Maria looks stunned and panicked, her eyes wide at his reckless pace. She cries his name in alarm as he sprints ahead, leaving her far behind. Skidding to a stop, Will turns around and asks his companion what is wrong. Luna Maria worries that if he runs that fast, the water in their cups will spill. She is then surprised to find the water in his cup completely still, not a single ripple. She catches up to him and apologizes for not keeping up with his fast pace. Will's foot catches on a root, showing how treacherous the path is. Luna Maria moves carefully across the uneven forest floor, eyes wide with worry. Will's face is a mask of strained concentration, revealing how hard the task is. Grabbing Luna Maria's hand to steady her, he holds their goblets carefully as they move together. Water in the cups trembles precariously, ready to spill with every step. Will suggests slowing his pace, and Luna Maria agrees if he does not mind the delay. Moving in step, they walk calmly along the forest path with their goblets held steady. From a distance, they continue their slow, careful walk through the woods. Luna Maria looks concerned and tense, sweating from the trial's intense effort. Friendly forest creatures emerge from the trees, seeming to wish them good luck. 2 gentle deer stir in the bushes, watching the pair as they move past. Luna Maria looks down, a bead of sweat on her face showing her intense focus. Admiring Will's perfect posture, she notes there is not the slightest tremble in his form. A bead of sweat on her cheek is a testament to the strangeness she is experiencing. A rising dread hits her as she realizes 40 minutes have passed and their pace is far too slow. Will turns to Luna Maria and asks if she can speed up so they can make it in time. His question startles her, briefly breaking her concentration under pressure. She apologizes and admits she isn't confident she can avoid spilling the water if she moves faster. Will thoughtfully suggests taking a rough shortcut through the woods to make up for lost time. He asks his companion whether she thinks she can handle the tougher terrain. Luna Maria says resolutely she will follow him because it is better than failing. The new path proves to be a treacherous, rocky streambed, far from an easy walk. They carefully cross a fallen log that spans a small gap, testing their balance. Will takes Luna Maria's hand and gently helps her down a steep, rocky step along the path. Standing on a large boulder, he looks back and asks his companion if she is all right. Luna Maria is hunched over, her body clearly exhausted after the long, grueling journey. Startled by Will saying her name, she gasps for breath as her focus falters. Noticing her focus slipping, he suggests they take a short break. Will stands at the forest edge, eyes fixed on the distant cedar that marks their goal. On the forest floor, their 2 ornate goblets rest safely on a flat rock. Facing Luna Maria, he gently reassures her not to worry about their situation. Will jumps gracefully over their resting cups and lands beside the seated Luna Maria. Suspecting their mentor Vandal meant this to happen, he wonders what to do. Luna Maria is amazed by his stamina, and he proudly says he's been running with animals since childhood. He shyly remembers her earlier remark that she considered him a friend too. Stuttering, he apologizes and asks whether bringing it up bothered her at all. Will's face goes deep red, and his heart pounds in his chest after the awkward exchange. Luna Maria stares at him with a blank, slightly puzzled expression, unsure how to respond. Her confusion eases into a lightly amused giggle at his endearing, flustered state. Smiling sincerely and gently, she says she would be honored to be his friend. Will blushes even more and becomes completely flustered by her heartfelt words. Luna Maria asks innocently what human cities are like and whether other men are as strong as he is. She adds that she doubts many others could have defeated a dragon as easily as he did. The word dragon suddenly triggers a powerful memory in Will. Realizing it, he grabs her shoulders and says the dragon is the key to their problem. On the distant hill, a lone cedar stands silhouetted against the sky, marking the trial's finish line. Miria sips her tea calmly and hums to herself while she waits for the trial to end. An elegant teapot rests beside an ornate hourglass whose sand is almost gone. Vandal approaches Miria, and Riley notes she seems unusually relaxed. The wizard watches with a knowing, faintly amused expression, his thoughts hidden. Maria snaps that he has no room to talk after forcing them into such an impossible challenge. Ronan, the swordsman, brings his large, muscular hand down in a gesture of agreement. Ronan says that Will could do it easily, but the little priestess makes success impossible. The hourglass appears again, its last grains of sand falling to show only 5 minutes remain. Squealing with delight, Marius promises to hug Will tightly and comfort him when he arrives. Ronan says she reeks of sweat and tells her to get away from him, teasing her about her plan. She grabs Ronan's arm and accuses him of hiding something from them. Vandal casually says he has no faith at all in the pair's chance of success. Then he gestures toward the edge of the forest and tells them to look. Will and Luna Maria sprang from the trees and sprinted toward the finish line with renewed energy. Ronan's face is a mask of complete shock and disbelief at their sudden, impossible arrival. Skidding to a stop before the observers, Will triumphantly announces to Vandal that they have succeeded. Ronan says he can't understand how the little priestess kept up with Will's pace. Luna Maria watches nervously, mouth open, as Ronan approaches them with suspicion. He demands to look inside their cups to check if any water remains. Ronan is convinced that after running at that speed, nothing would be left inside. Will and Luna Maria exchange a confident, knowing grin. The goblets reveal that the water in each has frozen solid into a block of ice. Ronan reels in surprise, but Vandal laughs heartily, confirming the tactic is allowed. Vandal clarified that he only told them not to spill the water, not that they couldn't freeze it. A young man smiles as a brilliant idea comes to him. Remembering how he froze a dragon, he realizes he can use the same tactic. Miria, his horned companion, says there's little time left. Vandal the wizard reminds them the water must remain in its original state. Will gestures confidently and agrees to the final condition. A powerful aura surrounds him as he melts the frozen goblets. The solid ice immediately melts into liquid, making gentle ripples in the cups. Vandal reaches out and takes one of the filled goblets from the table. Lifting the cup to his lips, he takes a long, satisfying drink. With a contented sigh, he says the cup of water is delicious. He places the empty goblet gently back on the stone table. Vandal declares victory, and they share a triumphant high five. A stern voice interrupts, warning them not to celebrate yet. The swordsman's menacing look signals the second trial is about to begin. Declaring himself the god of swords, he takes charge of the next trial. Ronan the swordsman sharply orders the old wizard to summon the challenge. Annoyed, the wizard sighs at the swordsman's demanding tone. Slamming his staff into the ground, he questions Ronan's attitude. A large, intricate magic circle appears on the ground before them. A massive stone golem rises from the earth, its stones crumbling into place. Ronan grins and announces they must fight vandals for the middle training golem. Will and Luna Maria stand frozen in shock at the towering new opponent. Luna Maria sees Ronan as a simpleton for choosing such a direct challenge. From a distance, Miria agrees that Ronan is just a simple musclehead. Relieved, Will is sure they can clear this simple trial. During his training, he beat countless golems like this one. Ronan reveals the first condition: the golem must be fought with a sword. Momentarily surprised, Will thinks this limit will not hold him back. Ronan's face breaks into a cruel smile as he moves to the next condition. He insists that the priestess Luna Maria must fight the golem alone. He will immediately protest in shock that he is not allowed to fight. Ronan says he already knows Will's strength because he trained him personally. Maria fears the little lady will think she is a burden. Will doubts that Luna Maria has ever held a sword. Ronan taunts the priestess, saying she doesn't even know how to use a sword. Luna Maria says weapons training is a sacred duty on her journey. Ronan gives a small, satisfied smirk at the unexpected development. Stunned, Will draws a beautiful sword from behind her back. Ronan tells the little lady not to get so worked up in a condescending tone. Vandal reveals the golem is only level 2 and says he will beat it at age 5. Maria taunts her, saying she can run away, but that only proves she failed. Luna Maria says she must protect Lord Will because she is his loyal servant. She insists a weak servant is unacceptable to her lord. Will calls her name, his face showing concern for her safety. Wanting to advise her, he can't find the words. Turning to him, she gives a gentle, reassuring smile. Her voice rings with conviction as she looks at Will and speaks. Ronan asks if they're ready, and Luna Maria vows she will succeed. At Ronan's sharp command, the golem lurches forward to attack. A massive fist slams into the earth, but Luna Maria gracefully dodges. She keeps evading, her long hair flowing with her fluid movements. The golem rumbles as it turns, its stony bulk tracking her. Ronan realizes she's using her sharp hearing to predict its movements. Steadying herself, she prepares to shift from defense to offense. He knows she can't pass this trial by just dodging forever. She plants her foot firmly and lunges forward to strike the golem. Dashing in, she drives a flashing blade into the golem's torso. A small piece of the golem crumbles off under the attack. From the side, Will says, clearly impressed, "Nice." Her blade rings loudly against the golem's stone-hard skin. Frustration builds as she realizes her blade has no effect. Ronan says calmly that her attack was not strong enough to succeed. Spinning, she strikes again, and her blade bounces off the hard surface. The golem strikes back with a powerful blow, sending rocks flying. Will calls her name and sounds the alarm as the battle intensifies. Clenching her grip, she decides to try a new strategy. Unleashing a rapid flurry of strikes, she looks for a weakness. The golem moves closer to her, its massive body looming over her. Ronan smirks, seeing that the little lady's attacks do nothing. Panting, she searches for a way to stop the unstoppable creature. Will Vandal ask if the golem is really only level 2. Vandal cheekily admits he added a little more magic. He reveals that it's an advanced level 10 golem built to Will's specifications. The golem keeps up its relentless assault, its blows clashing loudly. It spins and delivers a powerful punch that blurs the stone fist. Luna Maria realizes even aiming at its joints is completely pointless. Ronan notices she has a fine sword enchanted with holy magic. He says it's effective against undead but won't harm magical creatures. Will decides to help her in a different way if her attacks fail. Preparing to aid Luna Maria, he readies his powerful support magic. Ronan springs forward and blocks Will's path with his drawn sword. He tells Will firmly that using magic is forbidden in this trial. He says Will can only help her by talking and offering encouragement. Luna Maria still struggles, the strain of the battle is showing. Frustrated, Will clenches his fist and feels powerless. Shouting encouragement, he urges Luna Maria not to lose. Despair overwhelms him, and he wonders what he is doing while feeling utterly useless. Grabbing a handful of grass, he rips it from the ground in frustration. On his knees, he feels hopeless about being unable to act. He desperately wishes the golem had a weakness to exploit. Vandal watches, muttering under his breath and wondering if the trial is too much. A quiet tower comes into view, suggesting a memory. A younger Will looks up, eyes wide with curiosity, and asks about golems. Vandal explains golems are magical beings made from different materials. He tells the young Will to aim for the golem's weak spot. Vandal reveals that the rune Imeth, which means truth, gives them life. Erasing the first rune turns it into Meth, which means death, and kills it. Young Will Bosi can simply smash them without needing a weak point. As the memory ends, Will realizes the magic runes must be on its body. By confirming Will's loophole, Ronan unwittingly triggers the trial's turning point. Will, a young man, asks swordsman Ronan to explain the rules of their trial. An idea sparks, and Will crouches down to work out a new plan. Sudden insight leads him to target himself with his support magic. Casting the Analysis, he watches the flow of magic inside the stone golem. His spell exposes the golem's weak point on its upper right shoulder, and he calls out the location to Luna Maria. Surprised, Luna Maria concentrates and absorbs the crucial information. Will promises to guide her and tells her to time her strike exactly on his cue. A hulking stone golem rumbles, as if it knows its opponents have discovered its secret. Luna Maria gives a shout of understanding and agrees to follow his lead. Springing into action, her expression shows complete trust in Lord Will's guidance. She uses the golem's swinging arm as a ramp and races up to its shoulder with impressive agility. Leaping in a graceful arc, she vaults over the golem's head and lands poised for the final blow. Upside down in midair, she drives her holy sword down in a powerful, focused strike. The golem's stone body cracks and splinters as the magic that gives it life unravels. A final shudder sends the magical construct shattering into a pile of rubble and dust. Will shouts triumphantly as Luna Maria lands gracefully among the debris, their foe defeated. Will turns to Ronan, beaming with the thrill of their win. Ronan praises Will for his excellent guidance and Luna Maria for her impressive swordsmanship. The swordsman's expression grows serious as he reveals the trial's true purpose. He explains he wanted to test their compatibility and whether Will could rely on a partner. Filled with joy and relief, Luna Maria dashes towards Will to celebrate their success. She hugs him joyfully and says with delight that they did it. Taken completely by surprise, Will's face is squashed and he gets flustered by the sudden embrace. A tiny crowned creature shrieks in comic fury, calling Luna Maria a little strumpet. Blushing, Will says the hug is embarrassing, and a mortified Luna Maria apologizes. Ronan steps forward, his steady presence cutting through their light-hearted celebration. Will and Luna Maria turn to him, hopeful as they wait for his judgment. Will breaks into a wide, relieved smile when he hears Ronan's verdict. Ronan announces they have brilliantly passed the second trial, his voice full of genuine approval. His expression shifts to make clear they have only one trial left. Joy fades from Luna Maria's face, replaced by a grim, stylish determination. Myria, a regal woman, considers what challenge to set for them. She reflects on their trial as dark-winged creatures fly over jagged mountains. Later, a full moon glows above a quiet, forested mountain range. In a peaceful clearing, Will and his companions sit around a campfire. Carefully tending a pot of stew, he watches it bubble over the crackling flames. This thick, creamy stew looks hearty and ready to serve. Will gives Luna Maria a bowl and warns her to be careful because it's hot. Taking a tentative bite, she shows quiet appreciation. Her eyes widen with delight as she says the meal is delicious. With a smile, Will says he only recently got his parents' approval for his cooking. After giving the compliment, Luna Maria suddenly becomes very flustered, confusing Will. With fierce determination, she vows she will not be beaten in the culinary arts. Surprised to learn she can cook, he will suggest they take turns cooking. He spreads a large cloak for her and asks if she can rest tonight. He says it's been a difficult day and they should get some proper rest. His expression goes serious as he thinks about where their next trial will be. He reveals they are entering the dragon's nest, where the dragons are active at night. Myria steps forward with a sinister smile, considering their final trial. Pointing directly at the stunned pair, she demands they kiss each other right now. Her two male companions are completely shocked by the bizarre and crazy trial. Myria urgently explains her worry about Will being alone with the little trumpet. She'd rather watch them kiss in front of her than suffer the pain of imagining it. Will and Luna Maria exchange a glance, their faces flushed with conflict and embarrassment. Horror settles in as he realizes kissing her would let them clear this trial easily. He turns to his mother and tries to talk her out of the absurd request. Ronan grabs Will and tells Myria not to put him through a trial he could never accept. Ronan and Vandal hold their ground and insist she set a fairer challenge. Defeated, Myriad shifts the subject and sighs while complaining about her makeup. Ronan's eyes widen with alarm when he realizes she's steering things in a manipulative direction. Vandal glares from under his hat and realizes her clever trick. Foolishly, one of the men mutters that her age might be causing her skin problems. Two fresh graves rise stark against the sky, a silent testament to their comment. Myria reveals her personal supply of medicinal herbs, for her skin has run out. Relieved, Will and Luna Maria eagerly accept the trial. Myria quietly marvels at how endearing her own will is because it is so earnest. Warning them not to celebrate yet, she wears a sly, knowing look. Will asks what she means, sweat beading on his cheek as he senses a catch. The herb they must retrieve is in the feared dragon's nest, she reveals. Will tells a worried Luna Maria that the place is extremely dangerous. This rare herb is the holy orchid, and they must get it by noon tomorrow. Confidently, Will accepts the difficult challenge and says, "Bring it on, Mother Maria." Maria smirks and wishes them good luck on their dangerous quest. Two adventurers walk away, their companions' graves now empty behind them. Later that night, they rest under blankets in the dark woods. At dawn, the sun rises above the distant mountain peaks. Morning light falls on the roof of a house tucked into the landscape. A cheerful Will greets Luna Maria while she tends the morning campfire. Stretching contentedly, he feels refreshed and ready for the day's journey. Preparing for the dangerous task ahead, he secures his equipment. He shares a meal and a light-hearted moment with a smiling Luna Maria. With a warm, friendly smile, she offers him a bowl of food. Standing at the cave's dark mouth, they prepare to begin their trial. Inside, Will summons a ball of light to reveal the winding rocky cavern. Luna Maria notes that, from the sound, the cave does not seem very large. Will explains that this is only the entrance to the main cavern where the dragons live. He warns her to be careful because the dragons on this mountain are known to be aggressive. He says the local dragons are violent, troublesome beasts that hunt in the forest. They step deeper into the dark, foreboding passage. They enter a larger space after traveling a fair distance into the cave. On a high ledge, they look down into the vast, empty cavern. Anxious, Will looks around and sees no dragons. Luna Maria says the holy orchid is their goal as they slide down into the cavern. The dragon being gone would be a lucky break for them, she says. The team starts searching the cavern's rocky floor for the rare flower. Eventually, Will stands on a rock and scans for any sign of their prize. He decides that if the flower is not on this level, they must go deeper. Luna Maria hesitates, aware that going deeper into the nest would be more dangerous. A sudden sharp sound makes her gasp, and her eyes widen in alarm. Will reacts instantly and pushes her to safety as the rock wall behind them explodes. Will shoves her out of the way while a shadowy figure bursts from the rock. A magnificent, terrifying blue dragon emerges, letting out a piercing screech. Lunging forward at incredible speed, the beast's claws are poised to strike. Its massive body streaks through the cavern air in a blur. The dragon's claws slammed into the ground, sending rocks and debris in all directions. The impact throws Luna Maria, leaving her dazed on the cavern floor. Will lands nimbly, his face registering shock and immediate concern. Calling to Luna Maria, he reassures her that he is completely unharmed. The massive dragon coils its long body with predatory intent. A cold, reptilian eye locks onto a new vulnerable target on the ground. Luna Maria looks up, afraid, as the beast starts stalking toward her. A low growl rises as the dragon looms over her, ready to attack. A terrified gasp escapes her as she clutches the book to her chest. Dark energy swirls above Will's hand as he prepares a spell. Rearing back, the dragon flaps its powerful wings as it prepares to unleash its breath weapon. Deadly focused, Will prepares to protect his friend from the approaching assault. A glow in its throat signals the imminent release of a destructive surge of energy. Will knows he must build a protective barrier around Luna Maria to save her. Luna Maria cries out, pleading with Lord Will to stop the dragon from attacking. The scent of a nearby flower reaches her, and she realizes it is the holy orchid. In desperation, Will scrambles up the treacherous rocky mountainside. A raw scream rips from him as the dragon's breath erupts behind him. Luna Maria screams his name in terror as the blast engulfs the cliff. Thick smoke and dust pour out from the massive explosion. Defeated, the blue dragon's head crumbles, and its reptilian eye is glazed over. In the flashback, the dragon's eye is full of fear and submission. Will's sword points straight at the beast's eye, a silent threat. Holding the blade steady, he stands strong and unshaken. Declaring the land sacred, he offers to spare the dragon's life. The dragon's eye shows it understands the surrender terms. Relieved, the beast accepts the offer to leave. Will watches with a slight, satisfied smile as his plan succeeds. He steps onto the fallen dragon's head as the battle ends. The massive blue dragon lifts off and flies back into the sky as promised. Relieved, Luna Maria runs to Will and sees him safe and victorious. Will smiles reassuringly and tells her there's nothing to worry about. A deep sigh of relief escapes her as her tension finally breaks. She asks if he's found the holy orchid, and he says he can smell it nearby. A single magnificent cluster of flowers glows softly among the rocks. Will and Luna Maria stare in awe and confirm it is the holy orchid. Will kneels and notes that it's only one bunch, yet all the flowers are blooming. The horned companion says excitedly that their final trial is almost done. They gently tuck the precious flowers into a pouch for transport. They hold the secured orchid together, sharing a triumphant moment. We'll suggest that they hurry out of the cave before more dragons return. The adventurers step out of the dark cavern into the bright, open mountain range. They head back, leaving the dangerous nest far behind. Will and his companion walk side by side, their mission nearly complete and a success. Will glances at the sun and says they will clear the trial with time to spare. He thanks Luna Maria warmly for her role in finding the holy orchid. She praises his strength for driving the dragon away and calls him a dragon slayer. Next, they bring the plant to the goddess to receive her blessing. Sudden rustling in the nearby bushes breaks the silence. A majestic buck with a full set of antlers enters the clearing. Will's eyes widen as he calls the buck by name Max. He tells his surprised companion the buck is his friend. Max the buck gives Will a silent, meaningful look. Luna Maria watches, still holding the precious bunch of orchids. Recalling Will's ability to talk to animals, she scolds Max for being here. The buck silently communicates by Will, its expression serious and urgent. Will's friendly demeanor fades into a look of dawning comprehension. Fury twists his face as he realizes Mother Maria has set them up. Luna Maria is stunned by his sudden, intense rage. With chilling certainty, he says their trial is not yet over. Luna Maria gasps, horrified as she realizes they have been tricked. Will repeats the accusation, voice laced with bitter resentment. Turning to Luna Maria and the buck, he confirms Mother Maria's deception. Stoic, the buck stands after delivering its grim message. Russell is left as Will processes the new terrible information. Luna Maria asks him what he means, her voice clearly confused. Will walks beside his friend, the buck, taking in the whole truth. Turning back to his companions, he rests his hand on his chin and thinks. Grim-faced, he prepares to explain the situation. As he walks beside Max, his mind processes the terrible predicament. He pats the buck's head gently, sensing its desperation. Will says Max has a newborn fawn who is critically ill. While gathering medicinal herbs to heal herself, the fawn's mother collapsed. Luna Maria hears it, and her face fills with dawning horror. A gasp escapes her as the puzzle pieces begin to click into place. Will confirms what she feared. The holy orchid is the only cure for the fawn. He asks Max who told him, already knowing the answer was Mother Maria. Max the buck nods solemnly, confirming the dreadful truth. Will says he knew, his voice heavy with the weight of this betrayal. Luna Maria watches, left speechless by the cruel test. He concludes that Miria knew about Max's plight and tailored the trial to it. He asked Max about his daughter's condition to find out how urgent it was. Luna Maria wonders whether this is merely a test of their kindness. She thinks giving Max the flowers would mean failing their trial. Will shakes his head, knowing his mother isn't that sentimental. He says firmly that if they return empty-handed, they will fail. Luna Maria faces a stark choice between taking the orchid and saving the fawn. Will knows the only other option is a dangerous return to the dragon's nest. As the sun climbs higher, it reminds them their deadline is noon. Will's face betrays deep inner turmoil, trapped in a moral crucible. Clenching his fist, he realizes he must make an impossible choice. Sunlight fills the room where a bucket of water rests on the floor. Serene and beautiful, Mother Maria calmly sweeps the room with a broom. Through the window, Will's two female companions wait outside. Wiping the wooden surface, she uses graceful, deliberate motions. Two hands wring out a wet cloth over the bucket. Sunlight fills the room as Miria is questioned about being overbearing. Ronan, a muscular man, leans against the door and watches her with a critical eye. Myriad turns with an annoyed noise, holding her duster at the ready. Both Chibai versions argue as Miria scolds Ronan for being dirty. Ronan lets out an exasperated sigh, clearly tired of their bickering. Peeking under the bed, he playfully teases her about Will's secret treasures. Miria pins his head to the floor, accusing him of being the source. She tugs his ear sharply, making him wince in discomfort. Her expression softens, showing quiet confidence that Will pass his trial. Elsewhere, someone asks Ronan whether he really believes they will succeed in their task. With absolute certainty, he says Will could easily defeat a dragon. Suddenly his face contorts, and his eyes go wide with dawning horror. Grabbing Miria by the shoulders, he demands to know what she has done. Miria meets his gaze with a calm, almost cunning smile. Ronan's face goes grim as he listens and begins to understand the situation. A grudging realization crosses his face, along with mild annoyance. Myria confirms the deer's fawn is sick and she's out of herbs. She asked rhetorically whether they could get many flowers, then denied that it was possible. The explanation shows that clustered orchids grow only deep inside the dragon's nest. Myriad notes that Will is saddled with a deadline and a companion. A dark, thorny backdrop shows the trap she carefully set. Will appears in a thought bubble, while Myria concludes he has no reason to take the risk. A sly, satisfied look revealed her intricate plan. Luna Maria holds the single precious bunch of holy orchids. Maria's voiceover says that only one bunch grows in the shallow part of the cave. Ronan grins, finally grasping the full, cruel depth of her test. Myriad confidently predicts that Will's kindness will compel him to confront the greater danger. She casually suggests Ronan air out his futon while he waits for them. Ronan's expression hardens into a serious, challenging look again. Myriad turns back to him, pretending to be innocent and asking what is wrong. A small knowing chuckle escapes him as he sees through her act. Spinning, he accuses her of having underestimated Will for far too long. Myriad emits a comically outraged shriek and vehemently denies the accusation. Ronan sits down and calls her out for being overly protective. He says Will must leave the mountain eventually for his own growth. A vision of Will reveals he is already a capable, independent young man. Luna Maria's face appears, her expression showing concern and determination. An anxious father Buck watches, waiting for their decision. Will faces Luna Maria and the deer, ready to announce his choice. Luna Maria cradles the orchid and agrees to hand it over to his friend. She firmly says she cannot ignore the danger his friend faces. Will smiles gently at her and thanks her for her understanding. Luna Maria says she's worried about the short time left before their trial. Will reassures her confidently that she doesn't need to worry about that. He announces he will return alone to the dragon's nest. He will rush to find where the holy orchids grow in clusters. Grabbing his arm frantically, Luna Maria insists she will go with him. She tells him the dragons in the depths are far more dangerous. Because the danger has grown, she insists on going with him. Letting go of his arm, she keeps arguing her point. She asks how he would handle being in trouble by himself. Tapping her nose confidently, she reminds him that she found the flowers. Will concedes with a small sweat drop and admits she is right. A pouch of sacred orchids is tied securely around the buck's neck. Close up on Will's hands as he pulls the pouch's ties tight. With a gentle smile, he looks at the deer and says to it, "There you go." He tells the buck to watch its daughter while fetching the herbs. His eye widens when he spots something on the deer's leg. He sees the desperate father's tattered, wounded legs deer. His face softens with empathy as he recognizes the deer's sacrifice. Will summons a healing spell, his hand glowing brightly over the deer's leg. The sparkles on the deer's legs are now completely healed and free of any wounds. Wishing the deer well, he hopes its spirited fawn will be healthy soon. The deer bolts into the forest as Will shouts for it to go. Will and Luna Maria exchange a determined look as they prepare for their turn. Suddenly, Will scoops Luna Maria into his arms, startling her in Telia. "This is the fastest way to get through the cave," he explains. He asks Tilia to use a windshield and warns them against biting their tongues. Determined to clear the trial, Tilia looks at Luna Maria. Luna Maria agrees with equal resolve, her expression steady and determined. They dash forward in a blur as their second attempt begins. Myria stares out the window, upset that her cleaning was all for nothing. Ronan sits under a large tree on a grassy hill, waiting patiently. The camera pans up the tree, revealing its gnarled, ancient branches. Determined, Myria sets out to cook a delicious, welcome meal despite feeling lonely. Vandal stands by the window, book in hand, watching the day. The chapter title page features a rustic house on the mountain. Ronan comes into the kitchen and asks Mary if they should come back soon. Vandal asks Myria if she's still upset about Will leaving. From the balcony, he gives a knowing chuckle as he watches. He tells her they can't keep Will locked up like a caged bird. Ronan looks toward the setting sun and says confidently that it won't be long. A boot plants itself firmly on the grassy path, signaling a determined arrival. Will and Luna Maria return carrying a large bouquet of holy orchids. They watch Ronan and Myria announce they are home. Myria looks back, relief and maternal pride softening her expression. Standing on the porch, she welcomes them home as they approach the house. A hand ruffles Will's hair with proud, affectionate force. Ronan proudly congratulates Will and notes how much Will has grown. He also praises Luna Maria for bringing back so many orchids. Ronan says Miria now has no reason to complain. Bursting forward, Marius shouts Will's name and tackles him in a hug, sending Ronan flying. She clings to him, tearful, asking if he is hurt or lonely. Will reassures her that he can use the healing techniques she taught him. Next, he asks about Max the deer and whether the medicine helped. With a gentle smile, Miria confirms the buck returned and the medicine was delivered. Will and Luna Maria say they are relieved the little doe will recover. Vandal tells the group that Miria has something important to say. Torn and in pain, Miria lets out a soft, hesitant grunt. I remember Will and Luna Maria returning triumphant with the flowers. Vandal, an imposing robed wizard, stands beside a swordsman and the goddess Miria. Vandal points out that Miria has something important to tell the young adventurers. The pained, myriad-looking figure admits they brought the holy orchid back in time. Smiling broadly, she announces that Will has passed the third trial. A massive eagle casts its shadow over them as its voice praises Will and the priestess. The great bird lands with a heavy thud and cries out when it recognizes Father Laux. Laux the eagle confirms he personally saw all 3 trials completed. Then he orders Will to set off on his journey in 10 days. The journey begins on the day Will turns 15. Will calls out enthusiastically to his mother Maria, full of joy and excitement. Miria warmly tells Will and Luna Maria to clean up and promises a celebratory feast. An excited Will says how much he loves his mother's home cooking and looks forward to the meal. Ronan whispers a playful warning to Luna Maria, advising her to avoid Miria's cooking. He says her strange herbs make the food taste and smell unbearable. Ronan assures Luna Maria that his delicious dishes will be available for her to enjoy. Holding the orchids, Luna Maria accepts his offer with gratitude and a determined look. Later, the whole family gathers around a table filled with a lavish spread. During the meal, Will gently offers a piece of his food to a happy Luna Maria. Laughing together, Ronan and Vandal enjoy the food and drink at the lively celebration. Will surprises Luna Maria with a kind offer of food. Shock and embarrassment overwhelm Luna Maria, leaving her a dizzy, wobbling mess. After the joyous feast, the table is covered with empty plates and bowls. Later that night, Luna Maria sleeps peacefully under a thick, warm blanket. High on the mountain, the house sits quiet and still beneath a starry night sky. Sitting on a windowsill, Will gazes at the full moon and thinks about his future. Father Ronan confronts Will and says that with only days left, he will spend all his time sparring. Ronan stands in a sunlit clearing, watching Will get ready to face him. Will accepts the challenge with confidence, telling his father not to hold back. Fierce and focused, Ronan begins the intense training session. A furious duel erupts between them, their blades clashing with tremendous force. Will grits his teeth, his face clenched with effort as he parries his father's blows. In a vast library, Vandal teaches Will the knowledge he needs for his journey. Will asks his mentor which books he should take on his journey. Vandal eagerly pulls a massive, overwhelming stack of books off the shelves for Will. Will panics at how many books there are, while Vandal laughs at his own zeal. Will promises Father Vandal he will not waste the knowledge he received. Vandal says the real skill is choosing what matters from endless information. A clear, starry sky stretches above the mountain home's roof. Will soaks in a steaming stone bath as his mother's voice asks how it is. Miria enters wrapped in a towel, brushing off his embarrassed protests about being a grown man. Will bursts into a flustered splash, shocked by his mother's sudden appearance. Myriad gently slides her fingers through his hair and notes its beautiful shine. Will says his beautiful hair comes from her special shampoo and beauty expertise. Myria's face softens with maternal love as she cares for her son. Gently, she tells him not to be lazy and to take care of his hair while traveling. Will turns to his mother, moved by her gentle care and warmth. She leans forward and gives him a soft, loving kiss on the cheek. Myriad tells him he can always come back home if the journey gets too hard. When she offers to wash the rest of his body, he panics and gets out. Flustered by his mother's forwardness, Will hastily says he's leaving. Will and Luna Maria tour the mountain with the great wolf Schultz. Luna Maria sincerely thanks Lord Will for showing her his home. She says that seeing his homeland with her own eyes has been her dream. Will reassures her that he's happy to show her, even though he's interrupting her family time. He assures her she won't be bored, a gentle smile on his face. They playfully splash each other in a cool, sparkling brook. Will shares his favorite places, the fruit-filled forest, the breezy hilltop, and the brook. Perched in a tree, he watches Luna Maria blush, captivated by the delicious fruit. Friendly forest animals gather to wave and welcome them. Majestic stag and small fawn watch with curious, gentle expressions. In a forest clearing, the group sits peacefully, surrounded by animals. Will lies back on a grassy slope, completely at ease with Luna Maria at his side. 10 days after the trials, the day of departure arrived. Together, Vandal, Ronan, and Myria watch Will with pride and solemnity. Will pulls the straps tight on his travel pack, getting ready for the journey. He pats his pack one last time to make sure everything is secure. Tapping his foot, he stands poised to begin his adventure. Ronan wishes Will a happy 15th birthday and notes that this is the day he must leave. Will thanks his mother and fathers before shouting a cheerful farewell as he departs. Later, deep in a forest, Will calls to Luna Maria. He says he's been following her north since they left home. Wide-eyed, Luna Maria asks if they actually have a destination in mind. A slightly sheepish look comes over her as she admits she has little experience in the outside world. Luna Maria admits this is her first time off the mountain and she only knows what she was taught. Confidently, she then confirms they do have a destination. She points out their current location in Midnia on a map to Will. She says they are headed to a northern forest revealed by a divine message. Will asks if they'll find anything important there, and she confirms it. Luna Maria says their goal is to find the legendary Holy Sword. Will remembers the legend of a sword set in a stone, waiting for a worthy hero. With boyish excitement, he says he has read about this legend in a book. Confusion briefly crosses his face as he admits he thought it was only a fairy tale. Luna Maria confirms the legend that only the hero of the sword is qualified. Guided by the goddess, she says she is certain of their purpose. Firm in her faith, she suggests Lord Will may be the one meant to draw it. Will fidgets, visibly flustered and a bit overwhelmed by this momentous possibility. Rushing will only tire them out before they even arrive, he protests. Excited, Luna Maria grabs his hand and insists they hurry. After Will objects, Luna Maria apologizes for rushing and admits he is right. She advises they stay calm and head to a village for supplies. Will lights up at the prospect of seeing a village for the first time. Luna Maria admits that Will was the first human she met recently, and she honored him. She says there's a big town ahead, and Will's enthusiasm returns. Will reacts with visible surprise and interest to news of a large town ahead. Confidently taking charge of foraging, he proudly presents a mushroom that looks tasty. His patience wanes, and he asks Luna Maria if they can hurry up after all. The path brings them to the shore of a vast, calm, crystal-clear lake. Alone on the lake bank, a figure fishes peacefully. A small blonde girl wearing a red hooded cloak. The fishing line breaks the calm of the water with a soft plop. Startled, a young blonde girl hears rustling in the nearby bushes. Her eyes widen and fill with tears as she cries out, afraid a bear is approaching. Foliage rustles louder, suggesting a large creature is drawing near. Holding her fishing rod like a weapon, she yells at the threat to stay away. Fear makes her heart race as she stares, her face registering pure shock. Trembling, she grips her makeshift weapon, ready for a confrontation. A dark-haired young man and his graceful female companion step out of the bushes. Her eye widens in surprise when she sees the two unexpected travelers. Fear shifts to confusion as she stammers, unsure if they are human. Two parties face each other in a comically tense Chibai-style standoff. The young man will look on with a sheepish, slightly bewildered expression. A peaceful scene by the lake is interrupted when someone asks if anything has been caught. After a huge sigh of relief, the girl laughed and chided them for the scare. Still gently exasperated, she tells them not to scare her like that again. Now all three sit peacefully by the lake, the initial tension gone. Will says he and his friend are on a journey and asks why she is there. She reveals she will challenge the lake's kingfish on behalf of her master, a hero. Will's expression shifts to sudden surprise and keen interest at the mention of a hero. He reels in shock, doubting her incredible claim that she served a hero. Brimming with pride, she proclaims she is the hero of the sword's servant. Will's heart races as he says he really wants to meet this hero. She laments that the great hero is not here because he is waiting at the forest's edge. His companion Luna Maria sulks asked why the girl would go into such a dangerous forest alone. Confidently, the girl says the hero trusts her completely, despite her small catch so far. Clutching her small fish, she vows to live up to her master's high expectations. Determined, she cast her line far out into the lake with skill. The bait hits the water with a soft splash, sending ripples across the surface. The line goes taut beneath the calm surface as something massive takes the bait. A massive splash breaks the surface, signaling a fierce struggle is about to begin. Shouting that it's coming, the girl braces herself against the powerful unseen force. The immense pull on her line tells her it's the legendary king carp of the lake. Water sprays in all directions as the creature thrashes violently just beneath the surface. A colossal fish breaches the water, dwarfing the onlookers on the rocks. Will and the girl stare in shock and say the king carp is enormous. Will is astonished to find the fish is more than twice their size. He warns her the fish is too big and she will never pull it up. Refusing to give up, she screams that she will hold on even if it costs her life. Gripping the rod with all her strength, she heard the wood groan under the immense strain. A warning cry sounds as she realizes her desperate struggle has put her in grave danger. A strong pull begins to drag her toward the edge of the rocky bank. A violent pull rips her off her feet and sends her flying helplessly through the air. Arcing over the water, she is pulled straight toward the giant fish. The king carp opens its huge mouth wide, ready to swallow her whole. A twitch in her eye shows absolute terror as her fate appears sealed. A terrifying thought flashes through her mind that she is about to be eaten. In a final desperate play, she screams for the great hero to save her. Immediately, Will bursts forward at incredible speed. He looks up, watching her fall helplessly through the sky. His footsteps pound the ground as he lunges forward to intercept her. Incredible speed blurs the scene as he closes the distance in an instant. A close-up captures his focused, determined expression as he carries out the daring rescue. Catching her in a graceful bridle carry, he saves her from the water below. Completely bewildered, she realizes she is flying through the air instead of being eaten. Shock and confusion show on her face as she clutches him tightly. Will looks down at her and calmly asks what is wrong as she wonders who he is. Overcome with emotion and relief, she gives him a tearful, heartfelt thank you. Will shrugs it off modestly, while she laments having nothing to offer in gratitude. She sighs and sees her fishing rod is broken, as if it had been cleanly cut. Nervous, Will hopes she doesn't realize he was the one who cut the line. Luna Maria notes that the enormous fish could not have been carried back. She agrees, gives up her quest, and returns to her master. Will watches, a hint of surprise on his face at her sudden decision. She asked to come along on their journey, and they agreed without hesitation. She offers her hand, ready to formally introduce herself to her new companions. She says her name is Lynx, and Will introduces himself as the priestess, Luna Maria. Now the three walk together through the sun-dappled forest, forming a new group. Lynx is surprised to learn that Luna Maria, a priestess, also serves Lord Will. Awe fills her, and she can hardly believe a priestess of Gaia is a servant. Remembering that he saved her, she asks excitedly if Lord Will is a famous wizard. Calmly, Will denies being a wizard and says he is not famous at all. Pointing to a mountain, he says he just left the legendary peak where the gods dwell. He tells the skeptical girl he grew up there. Link laughs, brushing off his incredible claim as a ridiculous joke while still insisting it's true. Luna Maria smiles calmly, sure that Lord Will's name will one day be known around the world. Lynx counters proudly insist that her master, the hero of the sword, will not be beaten. Tension crackles in the silence between the two devoted servants. Approaching the forest edge, Will tries to calm them, saying the hero's camp is close. Luna Maria's expression goes grave as she warns Will that she smells blood ahead. Lynx gasps, alarm spreading across her face at the ominous warning. Calling for the great hero, Lynx darts forward toward the source of the danger. Luna Maria declares she and Will should follow her into the fray. Sounds of fighting grow louder, confirming a battle rages just ahead. Will and Luna Maria look through the trees, their faces stunned by the sight. Goblins swarm a fallen comrade in a brutal skirmish. Three women on the sidelines swoon and call their hero cool. A confident warrior says only simple-minded goblins would dare fight him. Lavine, the hero in the clearing, announces that no goblins will get away. Lavine proclaims his full title, the Great Lavine, hero of the sword, and prepares to attack. Entering the clearing, Will and Luna Maria pause, surprised by the sight. Will stares, slightly stunned, as he recognizes the legendary figure. With a heroic pose, Lavine declares himself the sword's hero. Standing confidently among the fallen goblins, he is ready for the next wave of attackers. Sword at the ready, he taunts the goblins, daring them to face him. Again he declares his name and title as the great Lavine, hero of the sword. The goblin horde answers his arrogance with a single, angry screech. Lavine stands ready for battle, the image of a celebrated champion. At the edge of the clearing, Will and Luna Maria watch the battle unfold. Will murmurs the title hero of the sword, all clear on his face. The hero's fan club cheers him on, curious who the newcomers are. Now in the crowd, Lynx cups her hands and shouts encouragement to the great hero. Young Lynx calls out in relief to Lord Will and his companion. Apologizing for running off, she says she's glad Will is okay. Eagerly, she asks if they have seen her master. Proudly, she points to a blonde warrior and identifies him as Master Lavine. Will and his companion Luna Maria took in the hero's slim, handsome build. Link gushes in admiration, saying her master's blade can split boulders. Unimpressed, Will mutters that he can do those feats too. A horde of snarling goblins is poised to attack the hero. Lavine coolly reports roughly 30 goblins are interrupting his dinner. Thanking his cheering fans, he warns them to stay back from danger. Luna Maria dryly calls the adoring girls the hero's fan club. Watch closely to see whether this is the kingdom's strongest swordsman. Lavine taunts the hesitant goblins, calling out their reluctance to attack. A confident smirk crosses his lips as he decides to act first. Clenching his fist, he readies himself to charge into the fray. With a powerful shout, he declares he is coming for them. Terrified, a goblin recoils as the hero makes a sudden aggressive advance. He easily dodges his first opponent's clumsy sword swing. Grinning through blood, he announces one is already down. The goblin he struck collapses with a deep gash across its torso. Taunting the remaining goblins, he invites them to taste his blade. A mask of arrogant confidence covers his face as he cuts through them. A fan is awed by the hero of the sword's true strength. Will looks on, however, with a deeply troubled expression. Lavine keeps up the assault, his face twisted with effort and glee. Will knows his swordsmanship is powerful, but senses something is wrong. A goblin archer screeches to signal an attack from the rear. Two goblin archers fire a volley of arrows at the hero. Skills aren't everything. Will feels his fighting style is flawed. Arrows fly through the air toward the distracted warrior. Lavine curses their insolence while deflecting the incoming projectiles. Smaller goblin spots opportunity swarming around and clinging to him. A powerful surge of energy knocks them off balance. The hero grits his teeth, frustration breaking his composure. Roaring, he tells the annoying creatures to get off him. Lynx calls out her master's name in alarm as he is overwhelmed. Hidden in the trees, another archer draws back the bowstring. Luna Maria and her companion shout to warn of a hidden attacker. An arrow is released, flying straight toward the distracted Lavine. Lavine is about to be struck, his eyes going wide in surprise. Instantly, Will catches the arrow and lands back-to-back with Lavine. Stunned, the hero's face freezes at his sudden rescue. Will's lips curve into a small, confident smile after his intervention. Two swordsmen stand side by side, ready to face the remaining goblins. One of Lavine's fans looks shocked, while the other breathes a sigh of relief. Lavine, recovering, turns on Will, his face twisted with suspicion. Pointing his sword at Will, he demands to know who Will is. Flustered, Will introduces himself, puzzled at being scolded for helping. He says he met Lynx, Lavine's servant, in the forest. He offers to support the hero during the fight. Lavine accepts the help, though his expression clearly shows reluctance. The word support clearly irritates the proud hero. Shoving Will hard, he warns him not to get in his way. Lavine charges forward, while Will watches with a thoughtful expression. We'll conclude that Lavine is not used to fighting coordinated groups. Moving to cover Lavine's back, he prepares to attack from behind. Will strikes smoothly, felling a goblin from its blind spot. Lavine turns around, stunned by the sudden move. He is amazed because he has never seen such fluid swordplay before. Fans of the hero are confused by the sudden appearance of a strong boy. They say Will is trying to steal their hero's spotlight. Luna Maria cheers Will on fiercely and joins him in proclaiming the mother goddesses. Amazed, Lynx says Lord Will is as incredible as her master. Impressed by his skill with both magic and the sword, she stomps her foot. High above, Lavine watches Will and bristles at the idea of being supported. Clearly wounded pride makes him keep his displeasure inside. The fallen goblin lies on the ground, a casualty of the battle. A massive goblin laughs menacingly as it readies to strike. Lavine's companion raises the alarm as the monster approaches. The massive goblin swings its club with crushing force. In a wide shot, Will dispatches goblins while Lavine watches with a critical eye. A goblin is graphically split in two, its blood splattering in midair. Will narrows his eyes and keeps up his efficient attack. Lavine poses heroically on a small cliff for his audience. His fans were amazed by how a goblin was suddenly split in two. People instantly assume the great hero pulled off the feat in a flash. Lavine scoffs, claiming credit for the spectacular kill. He laughs loudly, boasting that this is the fate of his enemies. Will silently dismisses the hero's arrogant claim as ridiculous. Thoughts race through his head as he wonders if the technique was a sword flash. Only Swordmaster class fighters can pull off that move, he knows. Admitting his frustration, he says even he can't do it. He is left wondering how the boy managed to perform the feat. Will looks back toward the battlefield, his expression sharp. Stepping forward, he approaches the remaining goblins, who twitch in fear. 2 quick slashes bring down the last creature. A wider shot reveals the remaining goblins running into the forest. Furious, Lavine orders them to stop and face his sword of justice. Clicking his tongue in frustration, he watches his prey slip away. Lynx dashes toward her master, calling out to the great hero. She praises him, saying he quickly and expertly handled the goblins. Will tells Lavine he brought his servant Luna Maria with him. Looking downcast, Lynx says she failed to catch the giant king carp. She tells how Lord Will saved her from being eaten. Lavine grabs her and coldly calls her a useless servant for coming back empty-handed. Will's face hardens when he sees the hero's cruelty. He steps forward and tells Lavine there is no reason to speak to her that way. Lynx steps in, asks Will to wait, and says it was her fault. Other fans of the hero angrily demand to know who Will and Luna Maria are. Even after being mistreated, Lynx insists Lord Will has said nothing wrong. Lavine, the blonde swordsman, narrows his eyes in a predatory gaze and chooses his next move. Looking down at the dark-haired young man, he says he is unhappy with how the earlier goblin fight went. His grip tightens on the sword hilt as he says the newcomer rubs him the wrong way. Lavine points his blade forward and says he will make his opponent reflect on what he has done. In a tight close-up, he sharply orders the young man to draw his sword. 2 warriors stand facing each other, the duel's tension hanging between them. Will, a dark-haired young man, watches with a serious expression as he considers the challenge. Will accepts the duel in a calm, firm voice. Luna Maria, his companion, grabs his arm in a panic and pleads with him to wait a moment. Close up on her hands, gripping his arm tightly as she tries to pull him aside. Will turns to her, surprised by her sudden, forceful intervention. In an urgent whisper, she reminds him their opponent is no ordinary swordsman, but the hero of the sword. Will reassures her confidently that his swordmaster was a god, so he can handle this. Flustered, Luna Maria concedes his point and admits she was briefly caught up in the title. A serious look appears as she brings up a more strategic issue for them to consider. Their opponent is a proud man, and she can see he is upset by the situation. An easy win could cause trouble just a few days into their journey, she thinks. She suggests that declining the duel might be a prudent way to handle things. Will listens closely to her advice, his face thoughtful. Determined, he turns away and tells her to leave it to him, promising he'll handle it somehow. Impatient, Lavine shouts from across the clearing, demanding to know how long they will make him wait. They step forward, apologize for the delay, and formally accept the hero's challenge. Lavine scoffs, mocks Will for clinging to his woman, but admits he senses an intriguing vibe. Driven to be entertained, he lunges forward, starting the duel with incredible speed. With a fierce battle cry, he throws his full force into the opening assault. Will's gaze is sharp and focused, and his body is poised to respond to the incoming strike. In one smooth step, he easily sidesteps the hero's powerful lunge. Lavine's follow-up strike smashes the earth, but Will has already leaped clear of the blast. Reluctantly, he praises the well-executed dodge, noting Will didn't even have to counter. Taunting his opponent, the hero asks how long the opponent thinks he can keep up those evasive moves. Will holds his sword defensively, ready to face the next attack. The blades at last clash in a shower of sparks, the force of the impact echoing. Shock widens Lavine's eyes as he tries to figure out how Will stopped his blow with such thin arms. Surprise quickly melts into a genuine grin of excitement as he acknowledges Will's talent. Lavine presses the attack and shouts that his opponent cannot keep this fluke up forever. On the sidelines, young Lynx watches a heated exchange with a tense expression. Other admirers of Lavine swoon and cheer, praising the hero's graceful attack while his opponent remains helpless. Worried, Lynx turns to Luna Maria and asks if they should step in, fearing the worst. Luna Maria smiles serenely, reassuring her that there is nothing to worry about. The Lord's will is strong. Swords keep clashing with tremendous force, sending sparks between the two fighters. Lavine sighs in frustration as his powerful attacks are repeatedly parried. Focused, Will realizes he can discern something crucial from the blows. He feels the willpower gathered at the tip of the hero's sword. A childhood memory of training with Father Ronan surfaces in his mind. In a flashback, Ronan calls out to a trembling young Will and says he can't be fooled. His father says he's only pretending to practice and is clearly distracted by something. Blushing, Will admits he promised to explore a cave with his animal friends. Ronan, his father, sighs wearily at his student's youthful distraction. He starts to teach the young, attentive Will an important lesson. Ronan says a battle is not just about strength, but also about holding your ground. He adds that it's also about sticking to your own beliefs. In the memory, Ronan executes a smooth, powerful sword strike. He tells Will to channel his fighting spirit into the blade's tip. Continuing the lesson, he tells Will to also meld his vow to protect his allies. Ronan warns that any wavering in willpower becomes a weakness an opponent can exploit. The young man wobbles, struggling to keep his balance under the weight of the lesson. Completely exhausted from the intense training, he finally collapses to the ground. Will remembers not being able to move until nightfall after that grueling session. Even in pain, he was glad to have learned something new and thanked his father. Back in the present, Will senses emotions coming from the tip of Lavine's sword. He recognizes the hero's real feelings as frustration and hesitation, not pure strength. Lavine's face twists with frustration as he wonders what his opponent thinks of him. Quietly, he questions why Will is so skilled, since he believed his confidence came from talent. The hero narrows his eyes, deeply unsettled by his opponent's uncanny ability. Lavine is stunned that Will dodges his moves so easily, as if he can read them. He feels his opponent's gaze pierce him, exposing his very soul. Furious, Lavine yells at Will to stop looking at him with that knowing look. A final decisive move knocks Will's sword from his hand, and he stumbles backward. His companions shout his name in alarm as he falls to the ground, disarmed. Lavine stands over him, panting after the hard-fought duel. Defeated, Will sits on the ground as his companions rush to his side, concerned. Standing, he admits defeat and acknowledges Lavine as the true hero of the sword. A close-up focuses on Will's open hand, clearly signaling his surrender. Lavine gives a small, satisfied smile, content with his victory. After the duel ends, Will watches with a slightly nervous but accepting expression. Lavine admits he wasn't acting like an adult, still angry about the escaped goblins. His fan club cheers loudly to celebrate the great hero's impressive, hard-won victory. Lynx puffs her cheeks and huffs, slightly annoyed by the proceedings. Luna Maria whispers to Will, asking whether he meant to land the decisive final blow. Will answers her perceptive question with a sly, knowing smile. He recalls his father Vandal playing chess and skillfully letting Ronan win. Later, Lavine stands outside his tent in a new, clean area of the woods. A stern look crosses his face as he scans the campsite they've moved to. The previous clearing is littered with the corpses of slain goblins. Lynx calls out to the great hero, who is ready to follow his orders. Lavine announces they are moving camp because they do not want to be surrounded by goblin corpses. An enthusiastic companion agrees immediately and says she'll get ready right away. 3 companions follow Lavine away from the old grim campsite. Will approaches Lavine and asks what he plans to do after the encounter. Lavine says they'll continue toward Northwood to find the legendary Holy Sword. Mention of the famous blade makes Will's eyes light up with excitement. Realizing they must part now, Lavine will thank him for saving his life. Will returns the sentiment, saying he enjoyed their brief time together and hopes they meet again. They share a firm handshake as Lavine tells Will to take care on his journey. The scene shifts to a star-filled night sky above the dense forest canopy. Lavine and his 3 companions sit around a crackling campfire in a new clearing. A follower tells him he must be tired, but he brags that goblins are no match for him. His follower gazes at him with pure adoration and calls him the great hero. Lavine surveys the hearty meal she has prepared and says it looks delicious. Seated, his leg suddenly twitches from the day's immense strain. Lavine, a young blonde man, decides to let his 3 female companions feed him. One of the girls objects, insisting she will be the first to feed him. Another companion feeds him a spoonful, and he says it's delicious. Lavine laughs happily and says he'll leave himself in their care for the night. Only a smoldering pile of embers and ash remains as the campfire dies down. 3 of Lavine's female followers are shown sleeping soundly under a shared blanket. Lavine rises quietly from his bedroll, unable to rest. Alone, he walks through the moonlit forest, his face showing pain and worry. Clutching his gloved right hand, he fights a visible tremor. The close-up shows his hands, shaking uncontrollably from the strain of battle. His companions' cheerful words about him being pampered still echo in his mind. An inward scoff reveals his hand was too numb to even hold a spoon. Clenching his fist, he holds back his frustration and arm pain. He remembered Will's powerful sword flash from their duel. He arrives at a calm, glittering river whose surface sparkles under the starry sky. Needing relief, he wades into the cool water and splashes as he moves. The hero's discarded uniform lies on a rock by the riverbank. Under the full moon, she bathes, and her figure is revealed in the shimmering water. A distinctive wing-shaped tattoo marks her upper chest as she reflects. A close-up reveals the sword's intricate mark. This mark is meant to prove she is the sword hero. Crushed by the burden, she splashes the water in frustration. She remembers the moment she learned of her father's death and the disgrace that fell on her family. By choosing to live as a man, she aimed to restore her family's name. Scolds herself for acting like a foolish girl, hiding behind a false sense of vanity. Floating beneath the full moon, she thinks of her parents. Submerged in the water, she has a quiet, reflective moment. Most of the numbness in her arm has faded, and she feels relieved. Floating, a memory from her earlier encounter surfaces. A clear thought forms when she remembers a small detail about Will. She remembers the boy while mentioning the legendary Holy Sword. A desperate new idea takes shape in her tired mind. Reaching for the moon, she asks if the sword can make her stronger. The starry night fades into the bright clouds of a new morning. Dawn spreads across the forested mountains, marking the start of a new day. A dark trail through the woods leads into a much brighter clearing. Bright sunlight pours down onto a lush, grassy path ahead. A lone booted foot steps firmly into the sunlit grass. Standing on a hilltop, Will excitedly points ahead and tells Luna Maria he can see the road. Happily, he points out the road to Northwood, the city near the northern border. Now on the road, we will marvel at how large it is, so different from the mountains. Looking back at Luna Maria, he wears a happy, slightly bashful smile. Luna Maria notices how happy he looks, and he admits she can see it. He describes how refreshing the open road feels after only knowing mountain trails. Will says he's amazed by the small village they passed on their way. A kindly old villager had warmly invited the lovely priestess to stay the night. Will points out the many horse tracks and deep ruts in the dirt road. Luna Marie says this shows a thriving trade network. Thunderous galloping hooves suddenly break the calm. Will turns and sees a group of horses and carriages approaching in the distance. Luna Maria says they're coming from the north, from the city of Northwood. Alarm crosses Will's face as the carriage speeds toward them. Shouting a warning, he grabs Luna Maria and pulls her out of the way. A carriage barrels past recklessly as Karen watches in shock, splattered with mud. The carriage and a second covered wagon rattled away into the distance. Holding Luna Maria, Will noted how dangerously the carriages were moving. Luna Maria says she saw a girl in the window who appeared to be begging for help. Karen says she only caught a glimpse of a second hooded carriage behind them. Her face is frozen with horror as she remembers the frightening sight. In her account, the second carriage was full of menacing, armed thugs. Luna Maria asks if the situation bothers Will, and he confirms that it does. Confident in his judgment, Luna Maria tells him to pursue them. Trust your gut when something feels wrong, she tells him. Will nods with quiet determination and accepts her advice. Together, Will and Luna Maria stand and prepare for his sudden departure. He notes the carriage moved so fast it's already out of sight. He asked Luna Maria to wait and guard their bags, and she agrees. Surging with power, Will launches forward, cracking the ground. Luna Maria watches him vanish with both concern and confidence. Soaring through the air, his body tenses as he moves at superhuman speed. Landing lightly, he scans the horizon as he runs across the open fields. At last he spots the carriages and sees they have turned off the main road into the forest. Clenching his fist, he decides he must hurry to catch up with them. Leaping again, he bounds across the landscape toward the forest. Two carriages can be seen racing down a narrow, wooded path. Karen, a young woman inside, shrieks as the carriage rattles violently. Terrified, she cries out for help as something slams into the carriage door. A powerful blow from outside splinters the door's wood. The door rips from its hinges as Karen screams in sheer terror. Scarred and bald, a brutish thug looms in the open doorway with a menacing stare. Karen twitches with fear, recognizing the immediate, unmistakable danger she is in. A thug steps into the carriage, a cruel look on his face. His smirk confirms that she is the daughter of the Anaheim Company. He tells her he has a job to do and she will be coming with them. A sudden loud thud overhead startles the thug in Karen. The thug looks up, confused and trying to locate the source of the noise. From the second carriage, another thug shouts that someone is on the roof. The first thug startles and snaps his gaze up at the carriage roof. Climbing onto the vehicle's roof will confirm his suspicions. Inside, the thug roared and demanded to know where the punk was hiding. From above, Will snatches the thug's fur-lined collar in an instant. Calmly, he reminds the man that he had actually arrived by flying. The thug is spun around violently and thrown from the carriage. Will watches without emotion as the thug's body falls to the ground outside with a thud. He shifts his focus to Karen, still trembling in the corner. Fear shakes Karen, her eyes wide from the sudden violence. Will lands gracefully inside the carriage, with a second thug unconscious behind him. Apologizing for startling her, he introduces himself as her rescuer, Will. Karen looks up in disbelief and recognizes him as the man from the main road. Will's suspicions about her pursuers are confirmed when they shout about trouble. Karen looks up in shock when a question is directed at her. Desperate, she says she is the daughter of the Anaheim Company. She says bandits attacked her during a mission and she needs help. In a flashback, her guards make a decoy so she can escape. The memory shows a second, hidden group of enemies pursued her. Her rescuer gently reassures her that everything will be okay now. A crossbow bolt suddenly shatters the carriage window in a loud crash. Will flinches and grimaces as he realizes the shot narrowly missed him. Karen's face is a mask of renewed terror as she cries a warning. On the floor, they peer through the shattered window. Both the carriage door and window are completely destroyed. Disgusted by the chasing carriage, the blonde thug scolds his subordinate for his recklessness. The leader snaps an order for his men to move closer and board the carriage. A carriage wheel rattles violently, sending up dust from the rough path. Huddled on the floor, Will and Karen try to decide what to do next. Glancing out the window, Will searches for a way to shake their pursuers. He sees the driver slumped over with an arrow in his chest. Will realizes the driver is unconscious, which explains why the horses are rampaging. He stands and asks Karen if she has any experience driving a carriage. In a decisive moment, Will clenches his fist as a new plan forms. Studying the unconscious driver, he focuses on his next move. With steady hands, he slides the unconscious driver back into the main cabin. He tells Karen to hold onto the driver and brace for a rough ride. Karen asks what he plans to do, her voice tight with concern. With a confident grin, Will says he saw the terrain from above. The carriage speeds along the dirt road, its wheel rattling. Chasing thugs push their horses forward, determined to close the gap. Will's strong kick leaves the driver entirely in Karen's care. The thug cries out in pain as the driver crashes down on top of him. Will leaps out of the open carriage doorway without hesitation. Grabbing the door frame, he uses it as a springboard for his next move. With incredible agility, he vaults into the air toward the horses. A soft whoosh comes from his boot as he soars through the air. Landing perfectly, he comes down astride one of the powerful white horses pulling the carriage. He tells the startled animal that it is loyal to its master. He asks the horse to listen, his face showing intense concentration. The horse appears to understand, neighing in response to his command. A carriage thunders along the forest path, stirring up dust and debris. The frustrated pursuers curse and wonder why their target is making things so difficult. Will glances back at the pursuing carriage as his plan comes together. A grim, satisfied expression crosses his face when he sees it's going as planned. He remembers flying over the area and looking at the land around it. A sheer cliff appears in his memory just ahead on their path. His plan is to speed up and position his carriage to block the enemy's view. The lead thug taunts them, ordering them to abort the other carriage and give up. Inside, Karen and the driver brace themselves as the carriage rattles violently. Will draws the pursuers closer, urging his horse to reckless speed. At the last second, he pulls hard on the reins and shouts a command to turn. The thugs, their view blocked, mocked Will for thinking he could escape. Taunts turn to screams as their carriage plunges over the cliff. The carriage and its passengers plunge into the water far below. Will brings his own carriage to a stop, the chase at last over. In a quiet forest, he tends the injured driver. Soft green light flows from his hands as he channels healing magic. His spell sends a gentle glow over the driver's wounds. He reassures Karen that the man is no longer in danger. With shining eyes, Karen watches, amazed by his healing ability. He suggests they head back to the main road where his friend is waiting. Will humbly insists that his skills are nothing compared to his mother Myria. His incredible abilities leave Karen stunned and speechless. Completely smitten, she believes this kind, strong man is her hero. The carriage presses on through a vast mountain range. Karen happily clings to Will's arm on the driver's bench. He suggests she move inside for more comfort, but she prefers to stay in her special seat. Will can only let out a flustered, sheepish laugh at her forwardness. When they arrive, Luna Maria notices Karen's pushiness and recognizes it. Luna Maria, Will's companion, waits with a serene expression. Karen still sizes up the newcomer with a sharp, suspicious pout. When the carriage stops, Will says they were being chased by bandits. Karen instantly sees Luna Maria as a rival for Lord Will's affection. Karen strides up to the priestess and introduces herself. After giving her name and company, she makes a shocking announcement. Stunned, Will listens as Karen says they are meant to be together. The horned companion faces Will, a dark aura radiating from her. Blindfolded, the woman silently demands an explanation for this development. Karen insists on taking a hastily written will to her family's mansion. Luna Maria politely tries to refuse the invitation, saying their journey prevents them from accepting. She says they're on a sacred mission to find the holy sword. Will stands between them as Luna Maria glares at him. Karen spots an opportunity, a sly smile forming on her lips. Will and Luna Maria watch, confused by her sudden confidence. She says her family, the Anaheim Company, are merchants in Northwood. Triumphantly, she declares her family owns the forest. Their carriage moves on now that the matter is settled. Inside, Karen tries to ease the tension by bringing up her favorite restaurant. Calmly, Luna Maria replies that she and Lord will visit later alone. Will can only manage a strained, helpless laugh as the rivalry escalates. The young man is squeezed between the two arguing women. A crackling electric tension hangs between Karen and Luna Maria as they glare. Exasperated, Will orders them to stop fighting and check on the driver. Two women sulk at the back of the carriage, their argument paused. The driver groans in pain as his condition worsens. Sweating heavily, he breathes slowly and with effort. Karen triggers an alarm to tell Will the driver has a fever. Will quickly assesses the man and determines the fevers are due to blood loss. Sitting on the driver's bench, he prepares to give aid. He leaned down and asked Luna Maria to hand him some medicine for the driver. She hands him a small, neatly wrapped packet of medicine. Luna Maria says confidently that the medicine should work because she learned about it from Mother Maria. Karen looks at the packet and asks whether it's really medicine. Will, a young man, urgently asks a woman with twin tails for help. Exhausted but willing, she looks up and agrees to help him. Inside the carriage, she carefully gives medicine to the unconscious driver. They lay the injured man down on a bench to rest. His pained expression eases as the medicine starts to work. Both young women sigh with relief as they watch over the driver. Admiring Will's impressive talents, Karen calls him strong and knowledgeable. She remembers his mother had the same name as a famous goddess. Luna Maria, a blonde priestess, gives a soft, knowing chuckle at this. The woman confirms that Will's mother is the goddess herself, leaving Karen shocked. Sitting behind the wheel, Will explains he was adopted by his divine parents. Karen sees that his godly upbringing explains his many amazing talents. Will then turns to Karen and asks her a question. Her excitement grows as she asks what the city of North would be like. She blushes as she says this is her first time seeing so many people. Northwood, a massive walled city, comes into view in the distance. Karen thinks to herself that Lord Will is cute when he's excited. She points out Northwood is a major trading city and a distribution hub. Proudly, she points out her family's impressive company building in Anaheim. A somber look crosses her face as she remembers the recent bandit attack and her near capture. Seeing some thugs, Will wonders aloud whether the country is truly unsafe. Inside the carriage, Luna Maria reassures him that it is not. Karen says the kingdom is usually safe enough for a woman to travel alone. She decides handling the attackers is now her family's responsibility. Pressing close, she insists on going with Will into the forest of the Holy Sword. She imagines witnessing the historic moment he draws the sword. In her imagination, she alone sees this magical moment. Luna Maria is overwhelmed by regret and inner turmoil. Elsewhere, Will wonders whether only the hero of the sword can pull it out. Memories of the other heroes he encountered on his journey come to mind. He wonders if swordsman Lavine can succeed where others have failed. Sitting in the carriage, Karen notices the driver's complexion is much improved. Will turns back, smiling with relief at the news. Luna Maria suggests they keep heading north and should reach the town tomorrow. The carriage moves on through a calm, sunlit landscape. Will suddenly tenses as he senses a presence approaching on the road. A formidable troop of armored knights on horseback charges toward them. Their leader orders the carriage to stop at once, blocking their path. Knights encircle the carriage, weapons at the ready. From the driver's bench, Will peers out and assesses the tense situation. The carriage stops in front of the imposing armed force. A butler in uniform dismounts his horse with grace. He tells the driver the carriage belongs to the Anaheim Company. His sharp, suspicious gaze then fixes on the unfamiliar Will. At the carriage window, Karen calls to the butler, Johan. Peeking out from the carriage door, she looks surprised. She steps out and cheerfully asks Johan what he's doing there. Johan says urgently that he raced to find her after she disappeared. Embarrassed, Karen looks away and admits she felt at ease with Lord Will. Johan's expression hardens as he turns his focus back to Will. With his rapier drawn, he angrily accuses Will of attacking his lady. Karen grabs Johan in a panic and tells him he's got it all wrong. Lord Will saved her from bandits, she clarifies. Johan clears his throat, embarrassed by his rushed, incorrect accusation. Victor steps forward and names Will and Luna Maria as Karen's saviors. Johan composes himself, his expression returning to a look of stoic duty. Bowing deeply, Victor thanks Will with all his heart for saving his daughter. Will says humbly that they just happened to be there during the ordeal. Karen tells Victor that Will is on a quest for the Holy Sword in the forest. Victor grows thoughtful as he takes in this new information. He offers them a seat in his personal carriage, which guards will escort. Victor hopes they'll relax and enjoy the rest of their journey. Relieved, Will and Luna Maria watch the peaceful resolution. Across the open plains, the two carriages travel, one now escorted by knights. In the distance, a delicate hand rests on the table as a long sigh drifts out. Goddess Maria slumps over a table, drunk and sad, while Vandal scolds her. Vandal asks how long she'll keep moping and feeling sorry for herself. Miria says it's only been a few days since her Will left. At a window, the wizard Laos watches the world outside. He says that if Will's journey is going as planned, Will reach town soon. Countless worries weigh on her about the ordeals her chosen one must be facing. Leos confidently says they taught Will the skills to overcome any difficulty. Vandal jokes that Will is probably rescuing a damsel, which makes Miria jealous. She says she hasn't seen Leos lately and wonders where he is. Leo says he's probably watching Will from afar as a bird. A solitary carriage approaches the massive fortified city of Northwood. A slow pan up the stone gate reveals its imposing scale. The carriage and its escort pass under the raised portcullis into the city. Guards keep watch as the travelers officially enter the city limits. Behind them, the portcullis shuts, sealing them inside the city walls. Will peers out of the carriage window, his face glowing with wonder. A carriage rolls along a broad sunlit cobblestone street. He is captivated by the bustling streets and the towering architecture. The camera pans up the tall clock tower to reveal the city's scale. Will takes in the vibrant market, filled with people from all walks of life. Luna Maria smiles serenely, sharing his quiet excitement and sense of wonder. The streets buzz with cheerful chatter from the city's residents. Will notes that the lively city even rivals the capital. Karen winks smiles, pleased to see him so surprised and awed by the city. Offering to show them around, she remembers a more pressing priority. She asked to go first to tell her father she was safe. Will thinks her family's business is on the main road, but she corrects him. Karen heads straight to their manor on the edge of town. Will agrees, wanting to reassure her worried father right away. The carriage veers sharply toward the family manor. While they travel, Will thinks he recognizes someone but dismisses the thought. A carriage pulls up to the grand, sprawling Anaheim family manor. Stepping out, Will and Luna Maria are impressed by the estate's sheer size. Karen eagerly ushers the slightly overwhelmed Will inside quickly. A maid hurries through the large double doors to greet them. Relieved, a young dark-haired maid cries out to her milady. Rushing across the courtyard, she welcomes her lady home and shows her gratitude. Karen apologizes for causing worry and asks where her father is. The maid says her father is waiting anxiously in the entry hall. A man paces back and forth inside the manor, his boots scuffing nervously. Karen's father fidgets with his hands, clearly anxious. A second maid rushes in to say the young miss has finally returned. When Karen heard that, she burst through the doors calling for her father. Wide-eyed and full of emotion, she runs toward him across the hall. Rushing into her father's arms, she hugs him tightly with relief. Filled with joy, her father says how deeply worried he had been about her. Nearby, Will and the girl with bunny ears watch the reunion, looking awkward. At last, the father notices the unfamiliar guest his daughter brought. He correctly identifies them as the people named in the report he received. Gathering himself, he formally introduces himself as Victor Anaheim, Karen's father. The group moves to a comfortable sitting room to talk about what happened. Victor carefully summarizes his view that the attack was an attempted kidnapping. He notes that Will from the Gods Mountain was the one who stopped the plot. Victor sips his tea slowly and weighs the information carefully. Will stares nervously, gulping as he waits for the man's judgment. Victor's gaze hardens as he stares down the young man before him. He announces he must ask Will a very important question. Suddenly overcome with emotion, Victor asks Will if he can make Karen happy. Misreading the situation, Karen eagerly asks whether he approves of their marriage. Her father admits it will be painful, but he must think about her feelings. Luna Maria listens to the exchange, a single bead of sweat rolling down her face. Victor grows shrewd and analytical as he turns to her. He asks the priestess if she noticed anything odd or questionable in their story. Victor smiles slyly as he prepares his explanation. He stresses his business experience and his ability to rely on his own observations. He remembers being told that Will is a fierce, magically gifted fighter. Victor believes no son of God or priestess would approve of wickedness. A genuine look of trust and satisfaction softens his face. He says he will trust his daughter's judgment above all. The statement clearly moves Will, his face showing pure gratitude. Karen excitedly asked about bridal garments, but Will quickly told her not to. Luna Maria reminds Victor about the other reason they came to the city. Victor remembers that their purpose involved the holy sword. Deciding to postpone the discussion, he holds up a hand to stop Will. He knows his daughter and her guests must be tired after their journey. Snapping his fingers, he announces a modest welcome dinner for them. Karen eagerly takes Will's hand, ready to lead him away so he can prepare. A stern man wearing glasses grabs Karen's shoulder to stop her. The maid tells them a separate bath has been prepared for Karen. Will is led into a lavish bathhouse, far grander than he expected. Wrapped in a towel, he looks around the lavish surroundings in surprise. He notes that although his mother's taste produced a large bathhouse, this is on another level. Soaking in the water, his thoughts drift to how his mother and the others are doing. He politely refuses the maid's offer to wash his back. In another tub, Luna Maria pours water over her long blonde hair. Karen soaks in the water, while the other woman sits on the edge of the bathtub. Karen asks if Luna Maria needs a maid's help, and she declines. The priestess claims her special eyes let her see things others cannot. Karen says she has gotten used to bathing outdoors while traveling with Will. Luna Maria understands they need deep trust to bathe together outdoors. She decides Karen is a fierce rival for Lord Will's affection. Sliding through the water, she approaches her new rival. She praises Karen's lovely, well-balanced figure as she steps closer. Flustered by the compliment, Karen insists she knows nothing about it. Luna Maria puffs out her chest and proudly declares she's the winner when it comes to the bus. Squeezing her tummy, she laments the pudge from recent formal dinners. Karen splashes in defiance, vowing she will not be beaten by Luna Maria. Later, a neatly folded formal shirt rests on the bedside table. Will straightens his rumpled cravat as Luna Maria stands beside him, serene. Butler Johann asks how the clothes fit, and they confirm they are perfect. Will sighs, feeling more composed in the formal attire. Luna Maria admits she feels nervous, but believes she appears calm. Her core self stays the same no matter where she is or what she wears. Will listens to her explanation and gains a new appreciation for her composure. He tells Luna Maria her dress looks lovely, and she blushes. Karen twirls into the room and calls out to Lord Will, excited. After she asks how she looks, he gives an enthusiastic thumbs up. A bespectacled maid steps forward to address Lord Will and Lady Luna Maria. She offers to take them to the dining hall for the welcome dinner. At the center of a lavishly prepared feast sits a magnificent roasted bird. A grand dining hall centers on a long table set for the guests. Victor greets them and asks whether they managed to unwind and relax. Looking refreshed and happy, Will confirm that he was. A maid guides Will to his seat at the grand dining table. Karen cheerfully points out that Will is sitting right next to her. Luna Maria sits on the opposite side, her expression unreadable. A maid with cat ears offers to pour Will a drink. The camera lingers on the maid's distinctive furry ears. She pours a thick, dark liquid into Will's ornate goblet. Inside the glass, the liquid swirls, its surface dark and reflective. Luna Maria narrows one eye and studies the scene with sharp focus. Victor lifts his glass, ready to make a toast to his guests. Will interrupts and says the drink is poison. Under a dark sky, the word poison echoes outside the grand manor. Shock and disbelief twist Victor's face at the accusation. Karen gasps, eyes wide with horror at the sudden turn of events. All the other maids in the room stand stunned and speechless. Luna Maria asks Will whether his claim about the poison is true. Firmly and without hesitation, Will says there is no doubt. Unease and murmurs ripple through the dining hall. Turning to Will, Karen's voice trembles as she asks for confirmation. Will nods firmly and silently, his face deadly serious. His mother, Myria the healer, taught him about many poisons, he explains. The poison was identified by its faint cloudiness and deadly hidden smell. Intrigued, Luna Maria asks to smell the drink herself. Dressed in an elegant gown, a blonde woman carefully lifts a goblet to her lips to sniff its contents. Pointing out a flavor beyond juice, she shocks the nearby maids. Dawning horror makes her realize the strange scent is also in Karen's glass. Victor, the host, reels when Will confirms the odors in everyone's drink. Victor shouts for his butler Johann, who answers sharply, "Yes, sir." Victor says with grim certainty that his household manages its food perfectly. He concludes that if Will is right, one of them is the poisoner. Karen watches with concern and calls to her father. Victor turns to Will and asks if Will recognizes the poison Victor mentioned earlier. Will confirms and explains this is a secret poison known only to a particular race. He spins, remembering the name of the race his mother mentioned. Will identifies them as fox people, his gaze sweeping over the maids. Pointing, he singles out one maid with his accusation. Confronting a fox-eared servant, he demands her true identity. The bespectacled head maid reacts in stunned disbelief. Turning to the accused maid Dahlia, she asks whether the accusation is true. Panicked, Dahlia vehemently denies the charge and insists she would never do it. She tries to discredit the guests by dismissing their claims as suspicious and unbelievable. Will brushes off her panicked denials with a cool, unimpressed gesture. Pressing her, he asks whether she truly insists the wine is not poisoned. Will lifts the goblet to his lips to prove his point, ready to drink. A hand shoots out, preventing his own hand from reaching his mouth. The goblet is knocked from his hand, and its contents splash onto the floor. Victor glares at Dahlia and says in a cold voice that she cannot deceive him. Victor instantly draws a blade and stabs the treacherous maid. After the swift, brutal strike lands, the blade whips back. Victor cradles the limp, defeated body of the would-be poisoner. He turns to head maid Ruby Lil and asks about Dahlia's work history. Ruby Lil confirmed she had worked there as an excellent maid for 6 months. Standing to one side, Karen softly calls to her father. She says the Galdig Company became more aggressive 6 months ago. Victor orders Johann to interrogate the captured maid and get every possible detail. A door opening marks a shift in time and scene. Later that night, Will stands with a blonde woman on a balcony. Victor enters, apologizing that the welcome banquet was ruined so badly. Will reassures him and says he is relieved that a real emergency was avoided. Victor's face softens with gratitude upon hearing this. A blonde woman approaches and asks if she may pose a question. She requested more information about the Galdig Company mentioned at the table. At the name, Victor's face darkens and his eyes look troubled. He opens by saying Northwood is a prosperous city with many merchant companies. About a year ago, a new company began aggressively buying up the others. This predatory entity is identified as the Galdig Company. Victor calls his business practices evil, cunning, and ruthless. On the map, Galdig holds the northwest, while Anaheim resists in the southeast. Victor announces their passive resistance ends now. Karen steps in holding a small box, ready to deliver a report. She confirms Dahlia admitted the orders came from the Galdig Company. Her family was taken hostage, so the maid had to comply. The failed kidnapping attempt led her to order their poisoning. Up to that point, they had no solid evidence and remained a step behind. Victor vows with fiery resolve to expose Galdig's evil deeds now. Will offers to help, but his companion warns him not to get involved. Smiling slyly, Victor jokes that he wants his future son-in-law to take part. He remembers their true purpose in seeking the holy sword in the spirit forest. The blonde woman asked permission to enter the forest owned by his company. Victor hesitates over their request, startling Will and his companion. Karen responds to her father's teasing with a furious, laughing pout. Will and the blonde woman tried to calm her, saying it was only a joke. Smiling, Victor confirms he was joking and readily gives his permission. He clarifies that his permission was never needed. His family's wealth comes from managing the city's large lumber business, he explains. They may come and go as they wish, provided they do not poach or log illegally. He says he suspects Galdig plans to seize those woods. They simply found the holy sword in the forest they were managing. He urges them not to hesitate if their journey requires them to go there. Renewed in determination, Will and the blonde woman eagerly accept his blessing. Victor admits it was his modest attempt to inspire them for their quest. Then he asks Will if he really thinks he can pull out the legendary sword. Will admits he has no hero's mark and is simply following a divine revelation. Karen and her friend say they have complete faith that Will is their hero. Victor notices their strong faith and resolve, but they sweat nervously when praised. He admits their hope is contagious and asks whether Will plans to leave tomorrow. Will confirms he will rest now and start their true quest in the morning. Karen eagerly tugs Will's arm, ready to celebrate. Shocked by her forwardness, her father forbids her from leaving home for a while. Ignoring him, Karen offers to guide Will and watch him succeed in person. A blonde woman glares, showing clear disapproval of Karen's possessiveness. She says she'll sleep next to Will to keep him warm, but Karen refuses. Two girls lock eyes, sparks of rivalry flying between them. Karen challenges her to a game of chess to decide who wins. Later that night, the two girls sleep peacefully together in the same bed. Will stands alone at the window, watching the full moon thoughtfully. Elsewhere, a brutish man roars and smashes a window in fury. Master Gullad silences a cowering subordinate for daring to speak back. The subordinate screams his master's name in sheer terror. Galdig fumes that they came so close to bringing down the Anaheim family. He screams that they wasted his time by failing to poison or kidnap him. A subordinate blames the Anaheim family's formidable bodyguard for their failure. Galdo spins around, still consumed by uncontrollable anger. A mysterious hooded figure speaks to him from the room's shadows. The figure reminds Galda of how closely they worked together trying to take the city. Galde accepts this and promises to repay his debt with double the interest. Stomping across the room, he heads for a small, ornate wooden box. Opening the box reveals an odd whistle carved with intricate patterns lying inside. A decisive crash as he slams the box lid shut. Galdi lifts the giant's whistle, showing he paid dearly for it. Beneath the same full moon, eerie lights fill the forest. A bright lantern cuts through the oppressive darkness. A hooded figure kneels in a clearing, having reached their destination. A twig snaps sharply under an unseen foot in a dark forest. A mysterious hooded figure slips through the undergrowth, carrying a small lantern. Kneeling before a glowing sword set in a stone, the figure wonders how long it's been since a human last appeared. The camera pulls back to reveal a young man and woman walking through the sunlit woods. Perched on a branch, two small birds watch the peaceful forest. Looking up, sunlight streams through a break in the dense forest canopy. Will, a young man, notices the sun is already high and they have walked a long way. Maria, his companion, explains calmly that even experienced travelers need half a day to reach their destination. Peering through the trees, she says she believes they will reach the holy sword soon. Eyes closed, she says she feels an aura of holiness growing stronger. Perched on a massive root, Will nervously spins, wondering if they're lost. Maria reassures him, confident they will reach the sword if they keep going this way. Will is amazed by her ability to sense those things. As they keep walking, he notes the forest's wonderful and mysterious nature. Maria agrees and says the place feels calm, quiet, and soothing. Will's sudden, unrestrained laughter interrupts her peaceful observation. He apologizes, saying the silence made him think of their loud friend Karen. Maria chuckled and agreed that Karen had been very lively and chattered non-stop in the carriage. Will remembers how eager and nearly desperate Karen was to join them that morning. Maria observes that Karen's cheerfulness, even after her ordeal, adds to her charm. Will grows serious and admits he feels uneasy, hoping nothing bad happens to them. Determined, he pushes on to bring back good news for their friends. He admits he is also eager to see the holy sword for himself. A pale, ethereal glow rises, lighting the path before them. In a clearing, they stop and stare in awe at a sword lodged in a large boulder. Will exhales in awe as Maria confirms this is the holy sword. Overcome with excitement, Will says he's only ever read about it in books until now. Suddenly, a condescending voice cuts in, mocking his foolish look of awe. Startled, Will and Maria spun to face the unexpected voice. Lavine, a young blonde man, scolds Will for shouting someone's name so loudly. Will shouts Lavine's name in shock as Lavine continues his lecture on manners. Flustered, Will tells the arrogant newcomer his name. He asks what Lavine is doing here and whether his servant Lynx is with him. Now Will realizes the person he saw in the city was Lynx. Lavine proudly says he is the sword's hero and has come to claim what belongs to him. He says curtly that his servant is in a nearby city and that he is here alone. Maria dryly says she's surprised he didn't bring an audience to see the event. A vein twitches on Lavine's forehead, making it clear he is annoyed by her remark. Angrily, he orders the insolent clowns to be quiet. Lavine angrily waves them away, declaring the holy sword is his. Smirking, he says a nobody like Will could never pull it off anyway. Will and Maria hold their ground and look determined despite the taunts. Will says they can't leave because they came with a specific goal in mind. Camera focuses on the magnificent sword, a symbol of their shared purpose. Maria calmly asks Will to wait a moment while she gets ready to speak. Turning to Lavine, she politely asks permission for a single question. Noting he arrived before them, she asks why he still hasn't drawn his sword. Will freezes in shock and immediately understands what her question implies. Maria thinks another qualification might be needed because the sword has been there for over 10 years. Will connect the dots and remember the legend that only the hero of the sword can pull it out. He concludes that if Lavine can't pull it out, Lavine must be a fake. This image of an ancient, ornate pattern indicates a deeper hidden qualification is needed. Lavine grits his teeth and insists the sword is his because he heard it speak. In a flashback, he strains, puzzled that the sword won't come free for the hero. Back in the present, Will asks in disbelief whether the sword can really speak. Lavine yells in frustration, baffled by what the sword was saying. The sword's voice confirms it truly spoke to its hero. Durandel introduces itself and notes the rare gathering of the fated. Durandel recognizes the young woman as the priestess of the Great Mother Goddess. It then addresses Will, noting it senses the god's blessing within him. The sword also recognizes Lavine as its hero. Lavine confirms to himself that Will is not an ordinary kid. Durandel interrupts and holds Will's attention with its next words. Even with his blessing, Will has no chance of pulling it free. Will stands before the sword, angered by its dismissive tone. He says he's getting annoyed at being told he has no chance. Determined, Will leaps onto the stone pedestal to face the sword. Durandel dares him to try, and Will tightens his grip on the hilt, ready to pull. His eyes narrow into intense, unwavering concentration. Roaring, he strains at the hilt, while Maria calls his name in alarm. Air crackles with his intense effort, but the sword does not move. Maria notices the sword won't budge, as if it's part of the ground. Lavine watches Will's futile struggle from a distance, smirking. Maria watches with growing concern, as Will uses every bit of his strength. Durandel's voice calmly tells him that his effort is impossible. Sweat pours down Will's face as the sword keeps telling him he's only wasting his energy. Lavine gloats loudly, mocking Will's boastful talk and his ultimate failure. Furious at the taunts, Will says he has had enough and will unleash his full strength. With a surge of strength, he tears the whole stone pedestal from the ground. Lavine and Maria stand speechless, their faces blank with shock. Will, holding the sword still stuck in the boulder, says oops as it wobbles. Onlookers can only stare, unsure exactly what just happened. Lavine concludes the freak pulled the whole pedestal out. His strength was absurd. A massive boulder slams back to the ground with a deafening thud. Breathless, he admits it's useless because the sword's power makes it too heavy to carry. Maria can only describe the feat as impressive, while Will seems unsure. Durandel says this has never happened before. Will offers a sheepish apology for getting heated, but Durandel says no one could have predicted this. The sword says this event reveals a truth. You need the hero's mark to wield it. It tells Lavine he failed because he is immature and running from personal problems. Now we'll ask why Lavine, the rightful owner, could not take the sword. Lavine stands alone, burdened by the sword's words. Durandel warns that if Lavine takes the sword now, it will only lead to his death. Will tells Maria he sensed this truth himself. He remembers sensing a deep insecurity in Lavine when they crossed blades. Maria has a hard time believing it because Lavine is usually so proud and loud. Will studies Lavine thoughtfully, considering the true nature of a hero. The ground suddenly shakes violently beneath their feet. Instinctively, Will grabs his companions and pulls them into a protective embrace as the world shakes. Alarmed, Lavine shouts to ask what that was. A sudden quake rips through the forest, jolting a dark-haired young man and his companion. Luna Maria thanks Will for protecting her as the tremor quickly fades. A deep, resonant voice comes from the holy sword embedded in a nearby stone. Durandel the sword warns the hero, the priestess, and the child of the gods. Durandel senses an ancient evil stirring from its long slumber. A hostile force now poses an immediate, direct threat to the nearby city. In Northwood, emergency bells ring urgently from a tall tower. Racing along the battlements, a guard raises the alarm with an urgent expression. Frightened residents run through the streets to escape the danger in the eastern forest. A young girl screams in terror, trapped amid the widespread chaos. From the safety of the city walls, 3 adventurers watched the disaster unfold. A city official shouts for all residents to evacuate to the central shelter immediately. A grim look crosses his face as another man watches from a nearby doorway. Battle-hardened commander cannot understand why those monsters suddenly invaded their peaceful city. He remembers the ancient legend of the holy war between the gods and the demon king. From the forest comes a terrifying horde of one-eyed giants called the Cyclops. Brutish monsters crash through the trees, massive and powerfully built. Atop the wall, a soldier reports to her captain that the city's evacuation is complete. The captain notices the giants are enormous, nearly 10 meters tall, and there are many of them. The soldier's salute confirms the city's troops are also in position. The captain acknowledges the report with grim understanding and prepares for the coming battle. The archers on the ramparts are ordered to aim at the approaching giants. Infantry and cavalry are ordered to flank the giants and disrupt their advance. The commander rallies his troops, shouting that they must not let the giants reach the walls. Northwood's guards advance to confront the monstrous threat directly. He reminds the guards that the city's safety depends on their honor. A lone soldier stands frozen with fear before the giant's single, unblinking eye. The giant whips its head around, fixing a cold gaze on a new target. The city's commander looks up, horror written on his face. The giant clamps a massive hand around the commander, squeezing him without mercy. The monster's eye casts a cold, destructive glare as it crushes its victim. A mounted knight rides in and saves the frozen soldier from the same fate. Grateful, the rescued soldier stammers his thanks while the knight scolds him for his foolishness. She urges him to use mobility and distance against the slow but powerful giants. On the wall, an archer captain prepares to order the archers to fire. He orders his archers to fire a volley of arrows at the approaching giants. Arrows pelt the giant's hide and bounce harmlessly off its thick skin. More annoyed than hurt, the giant glares at the ineffective attack. Frustrated, the commander reports that the giant's skin is too tough to penetrate. Panicked, he orders his troops to fall back from the indestructible monster. A giant throws a huge uprooted tree at the city's defenses. The projectile slams into the wall, making the stone crumble. A powerful impact triggers a massive explosion that shatters a section of the wall. Smoke and flying debris knock soldiers off their feet. A second giant easily pulls a tree out of the ground with its bare hands. It tenses, ready to launch another devastating projectile at the city. The snap of wood echoes as it prepares its makeshift weapon. A soldier shouts a warning as the next attack is about to launch. A massive ballista bolt tears through the air and strikes a giant. Siege weapon operators confirm they scored a direct hit on their massive target. The giant, impaled, staggers backward and falls hard to the ground. Soldiers cheer, celebrating a small victory and toppling a giant. A subordinate reports the success to his grim-faced commander. The commander orders all heavy crossbows to be moved to the threatened east wall. Grimly, he doubts how long they can hold off such powerful foes. A commanding voice recites an incantation, summoning the flame of the Red Lotus. A huge fireball explodes, engulfing another giant in a raging blaze. Thrashing in pain, the giant is consumed by magical flames. A giant's foot comes down amid the chaos, crushing a soldier's helmet. The discarded helmet lies broken on the ground, proof of the giant's power. The blonde warrior leaps through the air and lets out a fierce battle cry. Determination steals her face as she launches her attack. She delivers a powerful kick to the side of the giant's head. Smirking, she says the giant's skin is very tough. Close by, a small hooded cleric kneels next to an injured commander. Soft light flows from her hands as she channels healing magic. Giving a thumbs up, she cheerfully tells the grateful commander that he is healed. Still confused, the commander looks at his mysterious saviors. Sweat ran down his brow as he asked them who they were. The mage presents them as the hero of the sword's party. She says other adventurers are also volunteering to help defend the city. Encouraged, the commander asks where the great hero of the sword is. City defenders press on in a desperate fight against the giant horde below. The mage apologizes and says the hero is not with them right now. She rallies the troops and calls on them to unite to defend the city. The battle rages on as soldiers fight against overwhelming odds. In public, the mage looks confident, but she is deeply worried about her master. She realizes he has never left a party without letting anyone know before. Overwhelmed by the enemy, a soldier lets out a final scream. Her thoughts echo across the wide landscape, asking where Master Lavine has gone. In the distance, Will runs through the forest carrying Luna Maria in his arms. Struggling to keep up, Lavine is amazed at how fast Will moves while carrying someone. Will checks on Luna Maria, who urges him to get there as quickly as he can. Determination hardens his expression as he focuses on their destination. Sensing a threat, Lavine asks what Will means. Will explains that a powerful, ancient seal in this land has been broken. Lavine, stunned, asks what kind of seal he means. Will tells his companions the ancient legend of the Holy Sword. He remembers a time when gods still lived and waged a holy war. The war ended when the gods sealed the Demon King away. This very land also sealed away the Demon King's Cyclops army. All three companions watch with grim understanding of the situation. Lavine teases Will about breaking the seal when he pulled the sword. He quickly and nervously denies the accusation and is relieved. Luna Maria looks concerned during her weekly calls with Lord Will. Will nods, taking in how serious the situation has become. Lavine insists they must go back to the city right away to help. Conflicted, Will knows he could fly back alone but cannot abandon them. Luna Maria tells him to do as he wishes and fully trusts his judgment. Turning to Lavine, Will asks her for a favor to resolve their dilemma. Facing an urgent need to return to the city, Will proposes a plan to Lavine. She immediately scoffs at his idea, clearly unimpressed. Lavine says she understands he is basically asking her to babysit. Lavine says she has her own friends to protect and will go on ahead. Thwarted, Will comes up with a new plan based on a strategy from Mother Marius's trial. As Will stretches, a puzzled Luna Maria asks which strategy he means. Leaning in close, he whispers the plan into Luna Maria's ear. Lavine shouts in disbelief, doubting that Will has the stamina to run while carrying someone. Carrying Luna Maria, Will confidently says he is an expert at running through forests. Flashing a challenging grin, he says Lavine should worry about being left behind. Lavine's face twists in shock and competitive anger after the taunt. Furious, she accepts his challenge and says it's a race to see who reaches the city first. They run through the forest as Luna Maria asks if he is sure they should head back. Confirming their return, he says he still has her borrowed power. Brushing off his concern, she is sure she can return to the city alone. Will worried about Karen and her family in the city. Gazing at the distant city walls, he says he hopes everyone there is safe. Inside the mansion, Karen looks out a window when a thug grabs her from behind. A car speeds away from the Grand Anaheim mansion under a cloudy sky. Lord Victor Anaheim steps into his study, his face weary from the day's events. He sinks into his chair, clearly overwhelmed by the stress. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he struggles to take in the unbelievable news. A teacup clatters from his hand, showing his deep shock and disbelief. He finds it impossible that giants could attack from the nearby eastern forest. The disastrous events are too connected for him to believe they are a coincidence. A knock at the door pulls him out of his dark thoughts about the attack's true intent. Johann the butler enters the study and formally addresses his lord with respect. Johann tells the lord the carriage is ready for them to leave at once. Lord Victor agrees with the plan and urges Johann to hurry. He asks about his daughter, and Johann says all the servants have taken refuge. A gentle, relieved smile appears as he tells her he's glad she's safe. A mocking voice echoes his words and ends the brief moment of relief. The thug reveals that Karen has been captured, gloating that it saved him a lot of trouble. Stunned, Victor and Johann are filled with raw shock and fury at this terrible turn of events. The wide shot reveals the captor holding Karen hostage in the lavish hallway. Victor screams his daughter's name as the captor warns him to stay still. Tears stream down Karen's face as she chokes out an apology to her father. The captor presses his sharp blade hard against her throat, heightening the danger. Victor tightens his fist as he confronts a mask of suppressed rage and helplessness. With his hands raised in surrender, he agrees to follow the captor's demands. He demands that the Galdig Company free his daughter from its minion. A menacing look from the captor confirms Victor's suspicion about his allegiance. Suddenly, a new, imposing figure in full armor appears in the doorway. Johann slides in front of his lord, ready to defend him. The captor says he has come to take Victor with him. He says Gald, his head, also wants Karen to join them. Cruelly, he grabs Karen's chin, his thumb digging into her delicate cheek. Sneering, he says she and will put them through a great ordeal. Karen suddenly bites down hard on his finger. The captor cries out in pain and surprise, saying that she bit him. Furious at her defiance, he lifts his hand to strike her down. Victor shouts his butler's name, urgently begging him to intervene. Johann launches into action, a blur as he lunges forward. He lands a strong hand chop on the captor's arm, stopping the attack. Agony rips through the captor as Johann's powerful strike connects with his arm. Staggering back, he loses his balance and his grip on the sword slips. Shocked, Victor's eyes widen at his butler's sudden, effective intervention. Johann's face is set in grim determination as he finishes his move. The blow knocks the captor backward across the room. A more dangerous newcomer watches the scene unfold with quiet amusement. Now the captor lies defeated on the floor. Johann apologizes to his lord for the abrupt, violent outburst. Standing ready, he holds his decorative sword drawn in a defensive grip. A swordsman in eastern robes appears and instantly changes the atmosphere. Acknowledging Johann's skill, he dismisses his weapon as merely decorative. The defeated thug thanks the newcomer for saving him from the butler. Victor tightens his fist, realizing the new threat is far more serious. Angrily, the swordsman scolds his underling for failing to capture their target. Addressing Victor, he says not everyone is as incompetent as his subordinate. With his hand on his katana, he threatens Victor with death if he resists. Victor identifies the rare, deadly blade as a katana from the Far East. Quietly, he asks Johann if they can still rescue Karen now. Johann admits he doesn't know because the newcomer looks very skilled. Victor vows to sacrifice his life for even the smallest chance of saving her. Begging Johann to save Karen, he offers himself to be sacrificed. Having decided, Victor steps forward with determination. Shouting at his captors, he demands to be brought before their master, Galde. Outside the mansion, the kidnappers ready 2 carriages for their captives. A thug shoves Karen hard into one of the carriages, and she hits it with a thud. Bound at the wrists, Victor protests the rough treatment of his daughter. To stop him from causing more trouble, the swordsman knocks Johann unconscious. Johann falls to the ground, taken down by the swordsman's decisive strike. They plan to make Victor's disappearance appear to be a casualty of the chaos. After securing their captives, the swordsman orders the carriages to move out. Heavy carriage doors slam shut, trapping Victor and Karen inside. Two carriages rattle away from the Anaheim mansion grounds. They leave the estate and head toward an unknown, dangerous destination. At the forest edge, a lone maid watches the carriages pull away. She peeks from behind a tree, her face full of worry for her lady. Inside the rattling carriage, Victor gets ready to question his captor. His gaze cuts into the swordsman, sharp and accusing. He asks whether the Galdig Company orchestrated the giant attack. Listening, the swordsman keeps his face impassive and hidden beneath his wide hat. Dodging the question, he says he's only a hired hand. He suggests Victor ask Master Galdo himself when they meet soon. Victor's worst suspicion is confirmed, but it remains officially unaddressed. In the other carriage, Karen sits close to her bound father. He asks his daughter if anyone heard her after the terrifying ordeal. Apologizing to her, he accepts responsibility for being outmaneuvered by their enemies. She tells her father she is fine, her spirit unbroken by the capture. Tearing up, Karen vows to wait faithfully for their chance. Surprised, her father watches and questions his daughter's sudden, unshakable conviction. A faint, hopeful smile crosses the man's face as he takes in her words. Then he asks if she really believes in the young boy and his hooded companion. Moved by her faith, the father decides he cannot give up hope either. Miles away, Will suddenly stops while carrying Luna Maria, as if he heard her call. He stops short in the middle of the forest path. Holding his companion, Will's face tightens as he senses something is wrong. Luna Maria, worried when he suddenly stops, asks him what's wrong. He looks up and says he felt someone had just called his name. Nearby, Lavine, a blonde warrior, slams her hand against a tree trunk, exhausted. Panting heavily, she taunts Will, saying he must already be out of breath. The warrior sprints with everything she has, barely keeping up. She strikes a pose and says she has energy, but her bravado will betray her. Will's expression turns grim as a bead of sweat traces down his focused face. He warns he has a bad feeling and urges them to hurry on. The premonition is confirmed when a giant rampages through the city of Northwood. Karen's reflection watches the chaotic city approach through her carriage window.